uh, jump up the prices of drugs. And what I've noticed in my, anecdotal evidence here is that oftentimes it's at the expense of the workers, and I don't think that's appropriate. Hospital profits are up. 2021, they're 14.7% up nationwide, and they would have been up more if there were more workers. So the idea that we're going to reward people who help with those profits by minimizing the amount of money that they should
Mr.
be making
Quinto,
is
your time has
counterproductive.
expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and City Council members, thank you. My name is Nada Tushnet, and I see myself as one of the stakeholders. I am, as you can tell, a woman of a certain age. I urge you to adopt the initiative as submitted. One of the issues, as I face nursing home care, and as I have relatives who have, these people work hard, they are dedicated, they are exhausted, and without actually good pay, they have to take multiple jobs. That increases the risk for them, and therefore for the patients under their care. $25 an hour is not a lot of money. If we added it out, it would be not enough actually to be a living wage, but at least it moves us toward it. And I would rather be served by people who are well rested, happy in their jobs, and able to care for their own families without worry. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Grecia Lopez Reyes, Director of Lane's Long Beach Coalition for Good Jobs. We recently submitted a community letter to express our strong support for the healthcare worker minimum wage. For 2 years, healthcare workers have been on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. Workers have risked their lives, the lives of their loved ones, and in some cases, paid the ultimate price in their service to our community. The psychological toll of working through the pandemic, compounded by the inadequate staffing and pressure to work overtime, has caused healthcare workers to reach a breaking point. Setting a 25-hour minimum wage is not only just but necessary, especially with the cost of living rising dramatically in the city of Long Beach, but also it will help attract and retain workers while ensuring that the quality of care of families does not decline. My dad has struggled with Parkinson's disease for 20 years. He's a Long Beach resident, and I want to say that the conditions that he has to deal with would not be possible without the support of his healthcare workers. And so for me, this is a very important policy. We need to ensure that our families receive the care, and in order for that to happen, we need to ensure that our healthcare workers are treated with dignity and respect. So I urge you to please pass a healthcare minimum wage in the city of Long Beach to ensure that we address the healthcare staffing crisis and provide high quality care for our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Rodriguez, and I work at St. Mary's Hospital. I've been working there for 15 years, and for the last 2 years, I've been working overtime, short staff. I worked as a lead and working short staff and overtime, and been working the whole time, and I think we deserve the $25 minimum wage. The cost of living is getting higher here in Long Beach, and for us to live a reasonable life, not having to work 2 jobs especially would make us feel happy. Like everybody has mentioned, going to work with a decent pay will make us more happier, having to care for the patients. We lost 2 of our co-workers at our hospital. One of them, I could tell you, he was working short staff. He worked as hard as he could do it, and it was so sad to lose him. So, like I mentioned in the past, working through the COVID brought us a lot of mental and emotional feelings, and things that we're going to grow old through them, because it's things that we'll never forget. Having to care with the patients with COVID and
Thank you. Your time is
other
up.
issues. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristin Pugh, VP for Government Relations for the nonprofit health system, Memorial Care. We are proud of our over 100 years of providing compassionate and quality care to Long Beach residents. As with other hospitals, community clinics, workers, and local organizations, we are concerned of how the proposed measure could impact our community. We thank the Council for conducting the economic report with the LAADC, and according to the report, the LAADC recommends a more rigorous economic impact report, including estimates of labor market responses specific to the City of Long Beach's affected healthcare industry be conducted. This will provide policymakers and the general public with a more accurate understanding of the impact of the proposed healthcare wage increase. The proposed measure excludes the majority of workers, could deepen inequities in our healthcare system, and jeopardize access to care. Healthcare workers are heroes and have worked hard during the pandemic. A measure like this that includes some, but not all, is simply not the way to show appreciation. Please refer this measure to the November ballot for voters to decide. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, just real quick before the next speaker, please just everyone have the chance to speak and give their opinion and their public comment. And so no additional comments, please. Let's let everyone speak and go through the public comment. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia and members of the City Council. My name is Jose Barrera. I'm a resident of Long Beach. I'm a taxpayer, homeowner in the city, and I'm also the state president for the California chapter of the League of United Latin American Citizens. I submitted a letter in support earlier today and just want to make a few more comments on top of that. Recent studies, I found an article from the California Hospitals Association stating that our healthcare facilities are actually very short-staffed and that there's a lack of proper services within our healthcare industry. In my support, I also failed to state that the majority of the members and the workers who work in these hospitals are women of color. And by elevating and raising the minimum wage for our communities, we're not just elevating the people working there, but we're elevating their families and the community around them, providing essential services for those people and for our communities of color who are constantly suffering and lack adequate care. So please, I urge you to pass this ordinance and provide a fair wage for our healthcare workers of $25. Thank you.
Hello, Honorable Mayor Garcia, council members, city manager Monica, and staff. My name is Alex Locato. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Long Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. With over 750 members in the greater Long Beach area, we represent business community and business interests. I'm here to express our serious concerns with the proposed healthcare worker minimum wage measure. We urge the City Council to refer the measure to the November ballot instead of adopting it as an ordinance. The measure mandates pay requirements for some healthcare workers in some healthcare facilities while excluding the majority of healthcare workers doing the same jobs in the city of Long Beach. Research from the Hospital Association of Southern California and the California Hospital Association found that this measure would exclude 81% of healthcare facilities in Long Beach. And new research from the Berkeley Research Group found that 65% of healthcare workers in the city would be excluded. This approach to policy creates winners and losers and is unfair and inequitable. That's why we think that this is a matter better suited for the voters to decide. Please refer this measure to the November ballot. We appreciate your time and consideration.
Next speaker, please.
Dave Shukla, 3rd District resident. I'd like to speak in support of the motion and in passing it as an ordinance. It's something that once you have, you can amend and change and meet all of the concern from the Hospital Industry Association that it might not cover enough workers. I would love to see a proposal from the industry where some of the hospital profits could be used to fill some of those gaps. But more generally, I mean, you can study this thing to death. you can find, whichever particular form of economic benefit or economic impact that you want to trade the basic premise on. But it's this. These workers have been suffering. They've been working through incredibly adverse conditions, and the hospital system depends upon them being effective in their jobs. You don't want to risk that. It's not too much to ask, and the city can do something right now to make their lives better. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members. My name is Trent Lumpkins, and I work for St. Mary's with logistics. I am in full support of the increase in minimum wage. Reason being because I just worked my 7th day in a row at St. Mary's. Almost didn't come because I'm so tired because we're so understaffed. I put my own health at risk for the betterment of the patients and the organization. And I just feel like for $17 an hour, it's not really worth it. My dad just recovered from COVID, actually. He's 60, he has asthma. I live with my grandmother, she's also 80. For $17 an hour, that's not really worth the risk, if you ask me. I have coworkers with kids, multiple kids, rent due, car notes. Myself, I'm putting myself through the Fire Academy, Verdugo Fire Academy in January. So an increase it will help a lot. So I ask that you make the right decision, think about us little people that help keep the lights on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good evening, council members. My name is Celine Castillo. I've been a CNA for 6 years and have been working at St. Mary's Hospital in Long Beach since the beginning of the pandemic. But even in my work as a skilled credential healthcare worker, I have to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. Because I also work as a CNA in San Pedro, I've been getting tested for COVID weekly since March of 2020 due to the degree of exposure. I face many challenges in my life. I'm grateful for my opportunities. As a student and a DACA recipient, I'm working hard to follow my calling and serve my community. I have nothing to show for my sacrifices. Having to work 2 jobs has meant everything else in my personal life has also been delayed. We as healthcare workers are feeling broken. Throughout the pandemic, I had to isolate myself from my family, my friends, because I couldn't risk getting them sick. I even had to care for a fellow coworker who contracted COVID and passed away on my watch. The experience has been very lonely and hard on me psychologically. But I continue to work in healthcare because I love what I do. I can make $24 an hour at Target or become an insurance agent like some of my former coworkers, many of whom decided it's not worth staying to endure the stress while feeling undervalued and short-staffed. Many cities are considering this issue, and the city of Los Angeles, the city of Downey, and Monterey Park has just passed the ordinance. With overwhelming support from the city council, we are calling on this council to please support workers on this urgent issue.
Madam Clerk, sorry, time is up. Thank you.
Hello, council members. I'm Suzanne Jimenez. I'm the proponent of this ordinance, and thank you for moving the impact report. I think there were a couple things I'd like to address that weren't addressed in that impact report. I think one of the things I think is important as you hear healthcare worker stories about what they've been going through is really understanding that many of the all of the facilities that would be impacted by this ordinance have made tremendous profits throughout the pandemic. When we look at St. Mary's, in 2020, this is the last numbers we have, or that they've reported at least that's public, St. Mary's made a profit of $129 million. Long Beach Medical Center made over $45 million in profit. The nonprofit, as a previous speaker said, Miller's Children's and Women's Hospital in Long Beach made over $55 million in profit. College Medical Center, $16 million in profit. So, that's to say these hospitals can definitely afford this. There is no reason why they should not be paying their workers $25 or even more. And so we're here asking you all to pass this pass this initiative as an ordinance today. And I'm very proud to live in Long Beach, and I want to see Long Beach lead the way in this. And I think if we can get this done today, this will be very big for our city and for the state. Thank you.
Hello, hello, City Council. My name is Luis Dueñas. I am the local union president of the United Steelworkers Local 2801. We represent healthcare workers at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center and Miller Children's Women's Hospital. I'm here in support of the ordinance. What a wonderful opportunity to finally take care of the people who have taken care of our community. I thank everyone and all the unions and all the allies here today in support of this ordinance. For many years, and for the past couple of years, people have made enormous sacrifices and enormous shows of strength to get through this pandemic. As we see our hospitals make profits, it is now time to take care of the community and those who take care of us. Thank you, and I really hope that we get it passed as an ordinance.
Hello, Mayor Garcia, members. My name is Sandra Shelbour. I've worked at Long Beach Memorial for 20 years. I started in 2002. 2 years ago, when the pandemic started, it took me out of the workforce because of the mental, not just the economics, but the mental strain. I can't believe that we're here haggling over whether we should get proper pay or not. Just 2 years ago, we were named as frontline workers and heroes, and now we're haggling over whether we deserve enough to get paid. It's ridiculous. We put our lives on the line. We put our mental on the line. We sacrificed, and now we're here. I'm on a leave of absence still from Long Beach Memorial. I'm still employed there. This is ridiculous. It's upsetting. I am a member of Long Beach and have been. I've given birth to a child at Long Beach Memorial. My grandbabies were born at Long Beach Memorial. I work at Long Beach Memorial, and I stand here representing members from Long Beach Memorial with USW Local 2801, and we deserve this, and we deserve this today and not to be put on a ballot. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, members of the council. My name is Anthony Quintero. I represent College Medical Center here in Long Beach. It's impossible to argue that healthcare workers aren't heroes. Most of us in this room have been through something that no one else can experience or comprehend going through the COVID pandemic. However, as pointed out in the economic analysis, this was rushed. All the risks and benefits weren't properly explored. This is an issue that's going to impact the healthcare delivery system for thousands of people. For those reasons, this really should be deferred to the voters. This will give us the opportunity to have further economic analysis, looking at intended as well as unintended consequences. Again, if it's going to impact such a large swath of the community, this should be deferred to the voters. Thank you.
Please, everyone, let's give everyone a chance to speak. And if you want to applaud, that's fine. If you don't like what someone has to say, no applause is appropriate. If we can move faster, please. Next speaker.
Hello, I'm making this statement on behalf of Gabi Hernandez, Executive Director of the Long Beach Immigrants' Rights Coalition. I'm here to speak in support of the healthcare minimum wage in the city of Long Beach. This would invest in our frontline caregivers who have been through so much over the last couple of years, taking care of so many during their hardest times. These incredible, brave workers are primarily women, women of color, and immigrant women who have risked and sacrificed so much to ensure that we and our loved ones are seen, held, and cared for. Since the onset of the pandemic, these healthcare workers work day in and day out to maintain the safety of our most vulnerable family members. They deserve better. Setting a minimum wage would show that we actually do value all healthcare workers for their sacrifices and contributions for caring for our families during the global pandemic. Healthcare corporations benefited from billions of dollars in government funding during the pandemic, and what they did was increase their financial investments to turn big profit. While frontline healthcare workers sacrificed and risked their lives to care for patients and received no benefit from this, instead they experienced burnout. A $25 minimum wage will help retain current healthcare workers who are considering leaving this very hard profession. It will also help attract new people to the field. Retaining existing workers and recruiting new ones is critical to fixing staffing shortages and to provide a quality patient care. You cannot turn the other way. It is imperative that you support healthcare workers. They need more than hero signs. They need at the very least a $25 minimum wage. My name is Gabriel Perez. As a family member of multiple healthcare workers here in Long Beach, I also support and urge the City Council to pass the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Mayor and everybody. My name is Mark Galak. I'm the administrator of Finney Healthcare Center in Paramount, California. I'm here today. First of all, I want to thank all the healthcare workers here because I employ a lot of my wife's one of them, so I want to thank everybody for all their hard work and their sacrifice over the last couple of years. I want to point out one thing. Again, I'm not in the Long Beach area, but I want to point out something that I want to think everybody should be aware of. It's not just the hospitals and the care workers I'm concerned about as well. Is if we, and I'm not saying not to do, I think there's something should be done, but I think what we have to look at is I think what the impact outside the hospital areas where I'm concerned about. So for example, I'll give you an example. If you raise the minimum wage to 25 at the hospital level, then you're going to lose all the workers at the nursing homes are going to go to the hospitals, which then you have a shortage of people taking care of the patients in nursing homes, which then we don't have, based on CMS requirements, we don't have enough staffing to take care of the patients outside the hospital area. And my facility alone has approximately 15,000 CNA hours a month. You increase that by, you're talking about increasing the cost of almost $80,000 a month. And a lot of facilities, especially during the pandemic, are losing money. And it's not about money, it's just how we're going to care for the residents. I think there's something should be done, but I think there was no, I don't know if they looked at the economic impact of everything affected by the hospital system. And I think the nursing home residents and the staff in the CNAs and all the nurses in the nursing homes will all be affected by it. And I think there's a longer, bigger effect to the healthcare industry and the patients that need care in the long run. I think something should be done, but I think they need to look at the longer effect and how it affects all healthcare, not just the hospital area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Please come forward. If the folks that are lined up, please come forward.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I am Natalie Gonzalez, President of the Long Beach City Employees Union, IAM, Local Lodge 1930, and a District 2 resident. I'm here with a statement of solidarity for our healthcare workers, and you've heard so many stories here tonight about how this wage increase would really support them. Some of those healthcare workers that are in the city are also our employees, but I do want to say that to any of the, one thing that has not been said tonight, to any of the administrators who say that you're leaving people out, to anyone who says that you're going to be leaving people out of this ordinance, nothing precludes you from paying people what they deserve for the work that they provide day in and day out for our families, for our loved ones, for the members of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Garcia and the City Council. I am Rev Mary Jung. I am a pastor and a faith-rooted organizer with Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. And tonight I represent hundreds of faith leaders connected with CLU across LA and also Orange counties to speak in support of our healthcare workers. As you have heard from our siblings sharing their stories tonight, the healthcare workers have experienced the trauma of witnessing numerous deaths from their COVID patients, but they still continue showing up to care for our community and family members. And some of us may not have been here if the healthcare workers have not showed up for us and our loved ones. So my question is, what else would Long Beach want them to do before Long Beach is willing to raise their minimum wage to $25 an hour? Immigrants represent disproportionately high shares of U.S. workers in the healthcare system. So raising minimum wages for healthcare workers is not only a just decision, but it is also a decision that addresses the racial inequity in our society. And in the Christian sacred text, we are taught that don't take advantage of poor or needy workers, whether they are your fellows or immigrants who live in your land or your cities. Pay them their salary because their livelihood depends on that pay. So Honorable Mayor Garcia and the City Council, I urge you to take bold leadership tonight and pass the initiative to raise minimum wage for healthcare workers in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. And I think who do I have at the end of the line there? Okay, I'm gonna close the line unless there's any other speakers. Yes, I have. Okay, great. So if you'd like to speak, I'm gonna close the line. Next speaker, please. Go ahead.
Hello. I just want to show you guys that this is who I do it for, my kids. I am a single parent. I work hard, no help. I just feel like we're not asking to get rich. We're just asking for you guys to help us keep our head above water. Our time, devotion, our blood, sweat, tears, this is who we go home to have to do it for. We're asking for you guys to help. We don't need nothing else, just to help us. We do so much as healthcare workers. We put our life on the line. I just got over COVID and was forced to go back to work. Again, time away from my kids who need me, but my job needs me more. And it's like either food on the table or no job. So I just want to show you guys, this is who I do it for, my 3 kids. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. And so we're going to close the speakers list. So if we have, if there's anybody else, so I will close that speakers list. For the persons at the end will be the last speaker, and then we'll hear everyone in line. Please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elvira Munoz, and I'm a healthcare worker for the past 25 years. I'm also part of SEIU and UHW. And although we've heard many stories here tonight of how important it is to pass the $25 minimum wage, I think there's a true transparency that needs to come across when it comes to healthcare workers and the struggle that they're going through every single day. Not only do we hear in the news today that renters are going to be able to increase the rent, so just imagine the families who are struggling every single day to make ends meet and now have to increase the rent, especially here in the city of Long Beach. Every day we show up to work, we take care of your parents, grandparents, uncles, sisters, daughters, nieces, whatever family you have, and we do it whether we're sick, we're healthy, we still show up. Why? Because we need our job. But it's also very important to show and the true transparency when it comes to these high-end companies such as CEOs, Kaisers, administrators who are getting paid $500,000 and are speaking here tonight against the healthcare workers while they're getting paid millions of dollars and not struggling one single bit, just like we are every single day. So I do urge you to pass the $25 minimum wage on behalf of the healthcare workers who we need it, such as myself and everybody else here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia and council members. My name is Adina Tesler. I'm here on behalf of the Hospital Association of Southern California. I want to thank the council for your thoughtful approach and engaging LADC to provide an analysis of the potential economic impacts. At the heart of our hospital industry are workers who dedicate their lives to caring and helping others in need, and every single one of them deserves support, recognition, and a living wage. However, this measure and the patchwork approach of a city-by-city process to support only some workers is not the way to go about enacting this policy. The measure would exclude workers at more than 80% of the facilities in this city, including those excluded are at skilled nursing facilities, as the older woman referenced earlier, at Planned Parenthood, at FQHCs. If UHW wanted to include all of those workers, they could have gone to the county or to the state, but they came here to you. So we are not the ones dividing workers against workers. They designed an initiative that divides workers against workers. In addition, UHW will tell you that this is going to recruit more workers to the hospitals. Actually, what it's going to do is make it harder for those excluded to recruit and retain workers at public clinics and Planned Parenthood. Those places that serve the most vulnerable communities in Long Beach are going to suffer, as that gentleman talked about his skilled nursing facility earlier. Safety net services will suffer.
Time has expired.
Community clinics will suffer.
Ma'am, your time has expired. Thank
Next
you.
speaker, please. I think we've closed the speakers list, so please come forward.
Hi, Dr. Robert Garcia and staff members. My name is Richard Anderson. I work at Long Beach Memorial Hospital for 21 years. I'm a transporter. I have a disability. I have epilepsy and dyslexic, but it's controlled thanks to my doctor, Dr. Shea. I've been working really hard for the hospital. We're short in transporters. We lost 7 transporters within the last month and a half. I work with COVID patients. I don't get paid for COVID patients. I do my job the best I can do. I love my job. I love my union team, 2801 local, U.S. Steel Workers Alliance. And I want you to vote for this $25 increase because I'm not even making $18 an hour. And I've been there 21 years. And it's overdue. And I know you guys can do it. And I appreciate all you have done for all of us. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Katie Rotolo. I'm here to urge you to pass the $25 minimum wage. I think it is just a no-brainer. I don't, like many people have said, I don't know why we are deliberating on this. I certainly don't know why we would leave this to the ballot. I believe that we have the power to make this change right now, and it's long overdue. As that gentleman just said, he's been working over 20 years for not a living wage and putting his life on the line. I think a lot of people know this, but maybe not. But even before the pandemic, the mental health toll that the healthcare industry takes on people, and that they have to continue to show up, whether they're sick, whether they have their own issues at home, their own different types of abilities, in the ways they can show up, but they continue to show up for us. And I think the bare minimum we can do is pay people a fair and living wage. I think that, a lot of people have said that this doesn't include everyone. And like another person mentioned earlier, we can certainly amend this. So we can certainly expand upon this. I think I agree with the dipping into hospital profits. I think that this is just really ridiculous, as we heard the number of profit earlier, as we continue to see people in the community impacted, such as our healthcare workers, as many people have said, especially Black women, especially women of color, and not just our healthcare workers that are impacted, but the communities they're serving.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Your time is completed.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Maki Peters. I am a representative of UHW, a former resident of Long Beach, and I have deep ties in this community. The city's estimated cost of enforcement at $1.2 million is the least likely and most expensive route for enforcement. That assumes that 4 new jobs would be created for the purposes of enforcement. Just wanted to note that that in the impact report, and also to put this in perspective a little bit, because $1.2 million is less than 1% of the total city budget. The fiscal year proposed budget had $622.2 million in the general fund. So this figure would be 0.2% of the general fund. The likeliest means of managing the enforcement is through a contract with the county, which has existing infrastructure and would therefore be likely more cost effective. The largest providers covered by the ballot initiative, Dignity Memorial Health Services, DaVita and Fresenius, were profitable in their previous fiscal years and paid their executives millions. I also wanted to note the Berkeley Research Group is a known entity that provides a one-sided analysis for businesses. The language around some, not all, is misleading because all workers in covered facilities are included, and it's deceptive but not at all surprising that the same folks who pretend to care about clinic workers blocked our effort to fund clinics with $400 million at the state level and earn federal matching funds. So, and then finally, just want to state Planned Parenthood is exempt from this measure and has not taken a position on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Emilia Carlene. Vengo a suplicarles esta noche en nombre de todos mis compañeros que nos den ese aumento de $25. Nosotros estamos enfrentándonos a las infecciones, a los jefes, a nuestra familia, arriesgando a nuestra familia que se enfermen también igual que nosotros. Todos nosotros trabajamos mucho y creo que nos lo merecemos. Ya me da miedo ir a la tienda porque llego a la tienda y veo que se me olvida, que ya no ajustó algo y tengo que dejar aquello porque no lo ajusté. Llegando a la casa tengo que correr con la vecina para que me brinde un paquete de huevos, unas tortillas o algo porque no ajusté a llevarlo.
Señora, déjame que te haga la transacción ahorita y puedes continuar después de eso.
Emilia Carlene.
Carlene?
Sí, Carlene.
Good evening. I'm Emilia Carlene, and I just want to plead with you all to please pass this ordinance. I've been working as a healthcare worker as well. I'm asking that you pass this ordinance of $25. It's been very difficult to work in this field. We risk our lives and infections. We have to deal with infections with our bosses. Our families are at risk as well, and we're at risk. We're working very hard. I'm even fearful to go to the store. I don't have enough money to pay for everything that I need. When I go to the store, I have to leave one thing or another when I don't see I have enough money. And then I have to go to my neighbor to ask for eggs or tortillas or something like this. I'm asking that you please pass this ordinance.
Gracias.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is James Bell. I'm a radiology technologist from Kaiser Permanente at Downey. And I'm going to state, quite frankly, this does not impact me directly. I am here fighting for my fellow workers who make far less than I do. The California Hospital Association has been spending the last 2 weeks that you've been looking at your impact report, lying to voters in Downey and Los Angeles, paying people in Los Angeles $40 a signature to get a ballot measure to repeal the $25 minimum wage enacted in Los Angeles, and $20 a signature in Downey to repeal that measure. Obviously, they have plenty of money to do that, but they do not have enough money to pay these people a decent wage for risking their lives, as they have over the last 2.5 years, facing off against COVID, in addition to MRSA and C. diff and all the normal things we deal with. And of course, now we've got monkeypox to deal with. And these folks in EVS are the frontline workers. They are in the face of this thing every single day. They're not licensed professionals like I am. They're just people in there cleaning the toilet. They're making sure the room is clean and livable for a human being to heal. So the least you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is to pass this $25 minimum wage ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, Madam Clerk, is there any comments that are queued up on through the
If there
video?
are any members on Zoom who'd like to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9. Kieran Go is our first speaker. Your 90 seconds begin now. Kieran Go.
Hey everybody, this is Kieran Gotham, president of the Long Beach Restaurant Association. You may ask why we're chiming in on this issue. Well, it's a huge decision, and I don't think it just affects healthcare workers. Whenever you're increasing minimum wage, and nobody would deny that they have the right to go for that, it also affects other industries because we share the same labor pool. So really a study needs to be done on the greater effects that doing this increase would affect other businesses out there. And the reality is it's going to pass on to where we're paying more money for a lot of things. And while it was cited, some of the larger hospitals are making record profits. What about a lot of the smaller hospitals that on the report it showed is a 55% labor cost. So that means 55 cents on every dollar is going to labor in healthcare already. To increase it is going to be crazy. So we really need to study that and take a look at the greater effects on other industries as well. Thank you.
Speaker is Stanley Kim.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Reverend Stanley Kim, and I am the Director of Mission Integration for St. Mary Medical Center. And I am the chaplain. I was there when our patient died alone in our hospital because their family members were not allowed to because it was so dangerous. And it pains me to listen to my colleagues today and to speak here now. Most of you may not know that during COVID, it has been extremely difficult to discharge our patients to low levels of care after we help them get better. It is due to the labor shortages across the board, but specifically at the skilled nursing facilities, which this initiative excludes. Without timely discharge, we simply can't take care of the next wave of the sick residents who need us to keep them out of harm. Enacting public policy proposals that arbitrarily impose higher wages at only 19% of the facilities while excluding the 81% of majority of others is not only inequitable, but it's dangerous practice. This measure should be put to the November ballot so voters have the opportunity to explore the measure fully and determine its true cost to the Long Beach community. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Jessica Quintana.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Garcia, members of the City Council. My name is Jessica Quintana. I'm the Executive Director of Centro Cha, the largest Latino serving agency in the city of Long Beach. We specialize in workforce development and immigrant integration legal services. Centro Cha is here in support of the minimum wage measure. We understand firsthand the challenges that our healthcare workers have. We train in healthcare career paths for CNA, personal healthcare giving, and medical assistant workers. And before and during the pandemic, we've seen the economic challenges that a lot of our families here in the city are experiencing in meeting their housing, food needs, having the fear of bringing home the COVID-19 to their families, infecting their loved ones. It has been really challenging. And so I'm really in support of this initiative and really commend our city council members and Councilwoman Sarro for bringing this forward. As we know, millions of our healthcare workers are getting the pay or respect they deserve during the COVID-19 pandemic. This, has inspired an outpour of public appreciation for our frontline heroes. And so our workers are risking their lives, every day during the pandemic. And I'm just really here in support and echo what
Ms.
everybody
Quintana,
said
your time has expired.
here today, and really want to,
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Believe that concludes all of public comment. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? Okay, so let me go ahead and go back to Councilwoman Sarro, who will be the maker of the motion. I think she'll talk about the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first, I just want to thank Mr. Moedica, Mr. Schultz, and Mr. Vallejo for working with the LAEDC Institute for Applied Economics for getting us an economic impact report in the limited amount of time we had. And the other thing is, I think we've heard loud and clear that the COVID pandemic has demonstrated and highlighted the vital importance of our healthcare workers and that who have sacrificed your lives on the line and continue to do so as we're still in the midst of the pandemic. And, the healthcare minimum wage petition was brought forward by the public, and the people have spoken, and they want to take care of healthcare workers as you have taken care of us. So I want to make a motion to move forward with an initiative ordinance. And a few things before I just want to make a few more points is that I definitely hear the concern about equity, but I also believe that achieving equity begins with taking steps forward. And this is a forward step in order to make sure if there is concern in leaving other workers out, that this is a conversation that we start in including all workers. And lastly, I think that we will have savings on costs from having it go to the ballot. And I think that's important, and I wanted to just get verification, if we can, on how much would be saved from having it go to the ballot.
Currently, thank you, Councilwoman Sarro. Currently, the estimated cost for an additional ballot measure on the November ballot, since we are already having a citywide election, is $100,000 to $150,000, and that is the estimated cost.
Thank you. And lastly, I do agree with the economic impact report that I'd love to see a continuing report from what happens with this ordinance moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have a motion for the ordinance, and there's a second by Councilwoman Allen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank all the staff for working with the EDC and getting this back so quickly. We really appreciate all your efforts. And then I also just want to say thank you to all the healthcare workers who have shared their painful stories with us tonight. I know it takes a lot of courage to do your jobs, and it even takes a different kind of courage to get up here in a public forum and share your very personal and intimate feelings. So just thank you. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate everyone that came. This discussion came before us after tens of thousands of Long Beach residents signed petitions to put the wage increase on the ballot. And by adding this election to the ballot, I think it would cost somewhere, I think you said $150,000. So that is a significant amount of money. This idea has been a topic of conversation for years, with hero pay discussions across industries, and just stories of incredible sacrifices that have been made by so many healthcare heroes. I know I've heard this, and we've all heard this tonight. I mean, just the sacrifices that so many of you have made over the past 2.5 years. You deserve to be fairly compensated. These are people that grew up in Long Beach, and I definitely want to make sure that your families stay here in Long Beach. I want you to stay here in Long Beach. The wage increase respects their human dignity and just the value of the difficult times and the dangerous work that so many of us have come to rely on. This minimum wage increase is about respect and dignity for all of our healthcare workers. The measure has a wide voter support, as evidenced by the tens of thousands of signatures gathered to place it before us tonight. And enacting it tonight by ordinance would save the city a significant cost as well. Also, someone did mention Planned Parenthood earlier, and I just want to also say that they did not oppose this measure. So just again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everyone that came, no matter for or against it. I appreciate everyone that showed up tonight and let your voice be known. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Councilwoman Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to get some clarity on the motion that's on the floor. Councilwoman Sarro, is it your request that pursuant to the LA EDC recommendation that a report come back in 5 years? Is that the increment that you're thinking of in your proposed motion?
No, that's not my motion. My motion is to move it forward as an initiative, and that I said I like the idea of having a study of it.
Mayor, members of the council, if I could just clarify, the motion on the floor is to direct staff to bring back an ordinance, and that would come back next week to adopt the initiative as submitted in the petition, and that would come back next week.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And so maybe I can just ask for clarification on what you envision in terms of studying it. Councilwoman Sarro, may I ask for clarification on that motion?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last word you said.
Coming back to study it?
No, that wasn't part of the motion. It was part of my comment that I think we could continue to study it, but that's not part of my motion.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. And then the other, so first of all, I want to thank everyone who came out to speak tonight. Everybody's comments were incredibly powerful. I think there's a lot of passion around this issue. I think we all, every single person on this dais appreciates and respects our healthcare workers. And many of us have family members who are healthcare workers and understand the sacrifices that have and are being made every day. And I really, really appreciate everyone who came out to speak. I was impressed at how much was covered in the economic impact report, although I did make a comment to the city manager that it was a little bit difficult to understand what the conclusions were because, and I get it, you know, I'm in an industry where you don't want to, you know, lawyers sometimes don't say things very definitively because there's so many different factors that go into a particular outcome. And I guess it's the same for economists because in the one point they're talking about, well, these are the negative impacts, but there's also positive impacts. And so I think we can all agree that there's no definitive conclusion in terms of what the economic impact report indicated. The one thing that was of concern to me was what the cost to the city might be on enforcement. So I'm hoping, can the city manager talk a little bit about the opportunity? I think one of the speakers talked about it, the opportunity for the city to consolidate some of its roles and responsibilities with the county or other cities that are embarking upon this policy. Is that an option for us in terms of a cost savings measure down the road?
Yes, certainly. So in the short time that we had, and again, this would be a new area for us. We don't have a division that does this type of work. Any of the other prior motions have really relied more on the court system rather than on the city to do the enforcement. So we did an estimate of what we believe it would take to stand up a city enforcement mechanism. That's approximately $1.2 million, which is a combination of several staff to take complaints and investigate complaints, some legal assistance, and then some contract support. But that is an estimate at this time. So we do have the ability in the ordinance to work with LA County if they have a more streamlined model or a model that makes sense. We believe that we could partner with other cities that are also going to have the similar enforcement requirement and see if there's maybe some interest in sharing resources, or we could do it ourselves. So we have not quite figured that out yet. If this is either passed by voters or passed by the council, we would then really start in earnest standing up that enforcement method and reduce that cost wherever we can.
And so that cost is based on an estimate in the abstract, right?
That's correct. That's our best reading of what our responsibilities would be as outlined under the ordinance, given what we know at this time.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I just want to point out for historical context, I think sometimes, I'm not saying that happened in this situation, staff overestimates the amount of city resources we'll need. For example, with body-worn cameras, we went back and forth for years about what the cost would be, and in reality, the staffing costs associated with that workflow was not what we anticipated it would be, and the numbers were less than what we thought. So I'm hopeful that in this situation, there's either an ability to share the work with others, the county or other cities, or perhaps streamline what the city needs to do. But those are my initial comments, but I look forward to hearing from the rest of my colleagues on this.
Okay, Councilwoman Sarro.
Thanks, Mayor. So I did want to just make sure to circle back to just clarify, and I appreciate Councilmember Price for asking that. First and foremost, I did want to make the motion to move it forward as an ordinance, and that I am interested in also having staff come back with a study, maybe next week, what option of looking at what doing a study would look like, or a plan for a study, or what was based on your recommendation. It was a little long, so, but I am interested in following through with that recommendation with a study.
So just to understand that, the recommendation in the report, as I recall, was that within 5 years, once we have actual data and we kind of know more about the impacts, is to report on that within 5 years. Would that be the motion?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilwoman Zandejas.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Sarro, for bringing this very important item forward. And also thank you to city staff for the economic impact report, which was very, very telling and helpful. And very well done for the limited time that we had. I wanted to also thank everybody who came forward and spoke today. Very, very emotional night for a lot of us here today, to hear some of the comments that were said by our public during public comment. I think it's important that we hear all aspects and all sides. So I truly want to thank every single person who spoke, and looking forward to supporting this and hearing what other colleagues have to say as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Urenga.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to thank everybody who came forward today to speak. It's very important that we hear what is out there in the community. Actually, the ballot, the petitions that went out there that put it on the ballot, it speaks for itself. Thousands of people support this. For us to put it on the ballot would be a waste of our money. It would cost us between $100,000 to $150,000 to put a measure on the ballot that already has widespread support. So I don't see any logic in putting that on the ballot for that reason. Also, when we talk about the increase in minimum wage, healthcare workers have been working for the same wages for many, many, many years, and they will be continuing to do their work in future years. So when this measure comes forward and we are able to give them the wage that they deserve, it's going into the future, and it's going into affording them an opportunity to live with better wages, get better accommodations, provide for their families. This is what it's all about. It's not about whether we can afford the money or not. It's not about whether people are dying or not. It's about people being able to provide a service to our communities, to our people who are sick, to people who need the comfort and the support of health workers as they work together to help make sure that we have a safe community, that we have a health care system that provides for our citizens in need. So I am totally supportive of putting this measure as an ordinance. We don't need to go to the ballot. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to chime in at this point. Thank LAADC for the report. I had a chance to go through it. Thank all of the proponents on both sides for educating us in a very short period of time on the issue. But most importantly, it's an opportunity just to thank our frontline healthcare workers. All work deserves dignity. All work has dignity, and we appreciate the service that you've provided to our city for many, many years. But most importantly, over the course of the past 2 years, we recognize your service, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you. I don't have any other additional council members that are queued up. Is there any other council members that would like to make any comments? Councilmember Austin.
Thank you. And I want to also just extend my thank you and appreciation to those who came forward to speak this evening. I want to thank the person that knocked on my door this afternoon and asked me to sign the healthcare petition. I was wondering, I thought that part was done. But apparently, we're still working the community and gathering support. And there is widespread support for this issue to be an ordinance. When you talk about the action before us this evening, we have the ability this evening as a city council to change lives, right? To impact families in a tremendous way. There was I've had the good fortune of sitting at more bargaining tables than I can ever recall, right? Being part of negotiating wages, benefits, and terms and conditions of employees through the collective bargaining process. Tonight, we have an opportunity to do something that won't be achieved through the collective bargaining process, offering wage increases that are really going to transform lives and families. Families in my district, in 90805, families in the central area and on the west side, families and communities of color. And so without reservation, I am going to support this ordinance tonight. I do not think we should move it to the ballot. This is an issue that I've thought very deliberated hard on after reading the economic study. And I want to thank Councilmember Sarro for bringing that forth and ensuring that we had good information to work from. There are a lot of unknown variables, but one thing we do know is that healthcare workers who endured an amazing time, an unprecedented time, are going to be compensated today and moving forward. And so I'm happy to support this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other anyone else queued up, I'm going to go ahead and close out and make some remarks, and then we will go ahead and then go to a vote. I want to just start by saying a few broader things, and then more specific to the issue in front of us. I think it's important to note that I think all of us that have been involved in Long Beach and certainly involved in any sort of activism work or business work or here at the city, we always talk about our healthcare system. And it's one of the largest parts of our economy in the city of Long Beach. We have great hospital institutions that are part of our community. We have hardworking people that sit on these boards that love our hospitals and our clinics and our community centers. And so I think it's important to recognize and to note that we do have in our community a stellar hospital system that, as I look out, I see the workers that are powering or making our hospitals work. I see volunteers that give of their time to make our health system better. I'm an advocate as well. And so all of you and all the folks that have reached out to us directly from the workforce, from leadership, those that are running the hospital systems, they've all weighed in on this process and on this issue specifically. And I just want to thank everyone, because I think at the end of the day, my hope is that people are in this business because they want people to be healthy and because they care about each other. So thank you to everyone that's been engaged. I do want to thank some of the folks that have been involved. I have to start by thanking, of course, the proponents. At the end of the day, putting a measure in front of folks to get signatures on, to collect signatures, and then getting that either on the ballot or adopted is a lot of work. And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of manpower, and it's often very difficult. So to the proponents, obviously your work has led to this moment here on this body, and I want to thank them, particularly SEIU UHW, Ms. Jimenez, who I know is the lead proponent on this measure. I do want to thank the Economic Development Commission, who just yesterday also heard public testimony and were involved in hearing community input, and I want to thank them for their time for doing that as well. I want to also thank both Councilwomen Suli Sarro and Councilwoman Cindy Allen. These two council members have really led on this issue. I know early on, bringing forward this discussion and really also pushing along the staff to ensure that we had as organized a process as possible, because it's a very short window. And I want to remind folks, and I've reminded some of the leadership and folks I've talked to in the hospital system as well. This was brought to us by voters in our community, and that's why it's in front of us, and that's what we are debating and discussing this critical issue. And finally, to our own staff who've been working really hard to get this issue in front of us in a way that we could ask questions and debate. I know it's been a very short timeline and window, but I just want to thank them. If we can give our team a round of applause, because they've really done a great job in getting us there. Now to the issue in front of us, and I'll just share my thoughts, and I'm very grateful for all the comments that we've heard before. I grew up in clinics and hospitals. My mom, for 25 years, was a nurse's assistant in a hospital. It's City of Hope, which some of you are very familiar with. In fact, the last 2 years of her life, she and her coworkers helped organize her SEIU UHW local there at her clinic. And so I spent, oftentimes after school or sometimes on weekends, watching my mom interact and watching her friends and nurses assistants and folks doing in the X-ray department and radiologists, and that's just how I grew up as a kid. And what I learned through watching mostly these women is just the incredible work that goes into patient care. It is remarkable. And the other thing I learned about most of the workers is most are also very humble people. And I don't remember ever. I try to ask personally. I used to often ask my mom to ask for a raise. She never once asked for a raise, and she wouldn't do it because she was, in her view, a humble immigrant woman who was just grateful to have her job, and she was scared to. And so I know there's so many workers that work in our hospitals and in our clinics that deserve to be paid fairly, that deserve to be paid for their dignity and for the work that they're doing every single day, that oftentimes may not be represented and have the power of organizing or someone to speak for their behalf, but oftentimes they're just there every single day doing the work and coming home and taking care of their family. And so for me, there is no question that workers, particularly healthcare workers, don't deserve an increase and an increase that meets the moment that we're in right now as really in a healthcare crisis and in a pandemic that has affected not just families but all of you. I'll also note I was having a conversation with my brother the other day. I don't think my mom ever made $25, and so this is after 25 years of work. She definitely deserved it, but oftentimes these are the situations that folks find themselves in, and so I'm just very grateful to all of you for being here and for advocating, especially for people that don't have a voice, that may not be represented, that don't have an advocate advocating for them every single day. That is really, really important work. And to all of the workers that I know are oftentimes breaking their backs and doing what they can to take care of their families, you really are heroes. You are truly all heroes. I will say also, more broadly speaking, I understand some of the concerns. Nobody, and I've talked to a lot of friends, that have a different opinion, and that's okay. I understand some of the concerns as far as coverage and covering all folks. If it was up to me, every healthcare worker would be covered at $25. And I think that's, but we don't. I think what you don't do is we have a decision in front of us today, which is to cover these folks, the folks that are in front of us through this process. And so if there are ways in the future where we can ensure that all folks receive the same wage across all systems, I think that's something that not only most of us here would support, or all of us would support, but I think other institutions or systems that are going to be paying this wage would probably also support, to bring really equity throughout our whole healthcare system. So let's be very clear tonight that all healthcare workers, whether you're covered through this ordinance or not, deserve a $25 minimum wage. Every single one. And so just grateful to everyone here, grateful to the council for engaging, and I understand that even folks that have different opinions on this topic, at the end of the day, people are all focused on patient care and wanting to have the best healthcare system possible. And I know that's why folks are presenting their positions through their lived experiences, especially with all of you. So thank you all very much. And with that, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilwoman Price?
Aye.
Councilman Supernaw?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Councilman Austin?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and just take a 1 minute recess. So a minute recess. Thank you.
Real quickly. Oh,
All right, let's get the council back online. We're gonna call the meeting back to order in a moment when we establish quorum. Clerk, let me know when we get quorum. And we'll start with public comment, so if we have that list. Calling the city council back to the chambers. Thank you. Madam Clerk, how many do we have online? 3?
I see 3 online.
All right, there's 5. Let's reconvene the meeting with roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zandejas.
Present.
Councilwoman Allen. Councilwoman Price.
Present.
Councilman Supernaw.
Here.
Councilwoman Mungo.
Here.
Councilwoman Sarro.
Present.
Councilmember Uranga.
Present.
Councilman Austin. Vice Mayor Richardson.
I am here.
And Alan is here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we'll have opening public comment for the city council meeting. Madam Clerk, can you facilitate?
So, public comment speakers, we have 7. Sanai Kenfe, can you please come to the podium?
Let's read off the whole list. We have Sanai Kinfei, Jillian Xavier, Dave Shukla, Jackie Santa Ann, Sally Sanders, Francesca Shaboya, and TK.
And there's also 2 speakers in the Zoom.
And 2 on Zoom. Fantastic. So now you're recognized.
Thank you. Sanai Kinfei, 6th District resident. I came to speak about 2 things. The first thing that I wanted to speak about is I want to commemorate the life of an educator and my former neighbor, Miss Bobby Smith. She passed away recently. It was during the break. So I'm sure you guys would have had some type of reference towards her. I had the opportunity to know her as a kid. I went to formerly Burnett Elementary, now Bobby Smith Elementary, and as well as was a neighbor of hers in the Wrigley area for a bit. And just wanted to shed light to a advocate and community organizer and principal who did a lot for the African American community in the 6th District. And I had the pleasure of driving her to the polls the last time she voted. So was an extraordinary woman. I just wanted to commemorate her life. The second thing I wanted to speak about, as this is the month of August, I wanted to speak about the celebration of Black August. Black August is a celebration of the political prisoners and freedom fighters across the nation who are still unjustly imprisoned in the American criminal justice. There's a lot of people who dedicated their lives to the movement and were never given a fair trial, and so we celebrate their lives and the struggle that they spent decades now of their life being unjustly imprisoned towards. These are people like Sundiata Acoli, Sinkay McGee, Momia, and for me personally, my uncle Michael Reed DeRoe Sr., who has been falsely imprisoned since 1985 for alleged murder that he did not commit, nor was his fingerprints or DNA ever found on said murder item, weapon. The reality is that when you're doing work in the community to make it better, there are people then and now who organize against you. And so my uncle has been in prison for 37 plus years, 26 years in SHU, which is the longest that any prisoner in the California judicial system has ever been in Pelican Bay. And I just wanted to use this opportunity to shed light to him and other political prisoners who are still unjustly in prison. So that's what Black August is, and thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jillian Xavier.
I'm Jillian Xavier. I am one of the co-founders for Long Beach Social Equity Entrepreneurs. I've been a social equity verified applicant since 2019, I'm sorry. I am the first woman to open a cannabis testing lab in your city, and I'm an immigrant. And there's nothing to even be happy about, right? Because from the inception, the city said, okay, we will give you, in 2020, $80,000 towards opening a business, a cannabis business. In October 2021, you upgraded because you got more funded. You got millions of dollars from the state. You upgraded us to $445,000. Then you had Little Miss Muffet that you sent to Beverly Hills. Emily came and tell us in our face, y'all don't deserve all that money. Go find some investors. So now it's changed to where it's down to $57,000 from me to open a cannabis testing lab. If you look at what I give you, it's $1 million to open a lab. $700,000 is depending on the cost, building, licensing. $300,000 is for equipment. If you're doing it based on square footage, here's what's happening. No matter if I have a 500 square foot or a 10,000 square feet space, my equipment is still $100,000, $300,000 plus. So you're setting us up for failure. How do you go from $445,000 down to telling me, oh, it's just per square foot, Jillian, so it's going to be $57,000. I can't open. I'm in a lease for 5 years. You took us up the hill, and now we get up the hill, you cut us at the knees, roll us back down, and say, oh, no, we're not going to help y'all. You can't do that. I want you to put us back on the agenda to discuss how to redistribute this grant. Every license type do not need $445,000. If you're doing a delivery, you probably need $80. If you're doing manufacturing, you probably need $200, right? If you're doing a dispensary, you're close to that $300. But for me, the only woman standing in front of you that has my local license with the city of Long Beach, that has my business license with the city of Long Beach, that's sitting on Anaheim, okay? Where's the whole stroll? You won't give me the money to get into business? I don't even understand this. We can't move on. You can't get your taxes if you don't help us get where we need to go. The suggestion is you give us what we need. We will donate back into the program to help others. That's a fair trade. I'm sitting here for 5 years in the lease doing what? I can't open my business with these funds. I can't get an invest. You don't want me to own anything? You want me to get an investor to take all of my equity? You guys setting us up for failure. What is wrong with y'all? And where's the mayor? Robert, do better.
Thank you. Next speaker is Dave Shukla. Dave Shukla is next.
Oh, I can't go next? I'm Sally.
I'm just going in the order. Dave, do you mind?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't mind. Good.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
go
sorry.
for it. Which one you are? Sally Sanders?
Yes, I
Okay, we'll go
apologize.
Sally, then you're next, Dave.
Yes, my name is Sally Sanders. I am an anti-racist activist and a feminist. I'm here to speak out today about the murder of Mona Rodriguez being let out of LA County Jail last Thursday. This horrific incident took place on September 28, 2021, near Millikan High School here in Long Beach. Mona was having an altercation with a student there when school safety officer Eddie Gonzalez approached. Mona and 2 others fled the scene. Gonzalez recklessly fired his gun into the fleeing car, striking Mona in the head. She didn't die then. She died a week later. She was taken off life support and her organs were donated. Mona Rodriguez saved 5 lives when her family made the gut-wrenching decision to take her off life support and donate her organs. We community activists protested on a street corner by the school and at Long Beach Unified School District. Gonzalez was fired, and a month later he was charged with murder. So how is it that he is out now free? Doesn't Mona's life matter? Is it because she wasn't a blue-eyed blonde woman? Would her case get more public sympathy then? I suspect that is the case. In our patriarchal white supremacist society, we give full white privileges to cis white men. Women of color are disrespected and underprotected. We need to uplift our women of color and keep them safe. Keep their murderers locked up. Lock up Eddie Gonzalez. And get rid of the campus cops. Communities of color are traditionally underfunded and over-policed, providing bodies for the school-to-prison pipeline. No cops on campus. This is a picture of Mona. She was a beautiful young mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Shukla. Dave, you're up. Dave, we're going to stick to the order, man.
Thank you. He let me go first.
Oh, it's the same topic?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you. I wanted to let everyone know.
What's your name?
1 second, please. I wanted to just state the obvious that the majority of the seats up here are vacant. They're empty.
It's virtual.
Good
so the members are
evening,
here
Long
virtually.
Beach community. I am Jackie, a mother of Santa Ana, an elder, and a water protector. We came to save the children. We wear red to remind you of the missing and murdered indigenous women of this land. The Native Tribal Council women of this land came to you on behalf of Creator back in April to publicly denounce you for doing business with JP23, a downtown bar that is under investigation for allegations of druggings, kidnapping, and rape. The greased hand of Long Beach is hereby publicly condemned and charged with corruption, collusion, and bribery for knowingly allowing these abusers to continue business even after the city contends that the venue never obtained a proper business license or entertainment permit. We, the little portion of the community, are here because we are concerned about the terrible treatment of residents by law enforcement, their cover-ups, and excessive deadly force, and their culture of killing. We condemn the unnecessary murders of residents by the hands of your police. You are hereby charged with hate crimes, conspiracy, and murder in the first degree for the unlawful death of Mona Rodriguez. Rest in peace. For surely it is hatred against women and children that drives you to conspire to train an ordinary man into a killer and then dress him up, arm him with hollow point bullets, stick him in a school, and call him a safety officer. Just like in Uvalde, Texas, we are being slaughtered out here for your killing sport and bloody budgets. We know the entire force and city officials are in on the act. We publicly call out your culture of killing, the blood on your hands from human sacrifice, and we say no more ritualistic false flags. Long Beach Unified School District Safety Officer Eddie Gonzalez, 51, was arrested on suspicion of murder in the death of Mona Rodriguez, who was the mother of a 5-month-old boy, in early October. At his first court appearance, a judge ordered Gonzalez to remain jailed in lieu of $2 million bail in the September 27th shooting. He shot her in the head as she was fleeing. The civil suit contains striking allegations, including that Rodriguez was killed with a hollow point bullet that shattered the teenager's brain, causing pre-death pain and suffering. It also alleges a troubled culture within the Long Beach Unified School District in which high-ranking officials condone misconduct by school safety officers, including the filing of false reports and the planting of evidence to cover up the negligent and excessive use of force. Thank you.
Dave Shukla, 3rd District. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. They really wanted to speak on that. I think it was important to let them. I'd just like to speak during this public comment period on the fact that today is August 2nd. It's a National Day of Mobilization to declare a climate emergency. A lot of people in this country want not only President Biden, but our Congress and our state legislatures and even our city councils to declare a climate emergency. I would like to ask the City Council if it has the authority to revisit Measure US and increase the oil barrel tax to reflect oil profiteering by major corporations over the past year. If that's something that the city can do, it's something just like the ordinance you saw earlier this evening, it's something you can do directly and it will immediately have an effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Francesca Shaboya.
Good
afternoon. I'm speaking in regards to the over-policing of our Long Beach community, and I find it a shame that Mayor Garcia is not here at this moment, especially on his campaign for Congress. We saw him boasting about meetings with Congresswomen and men, and Joe Biden himself, as if Joe Biden didn't recently announce a budget to use federal funding to increase the number of officers to create, quote, safer communities, as if the Biden administration did not just continue the construction for Trump's border wall in Yuma. But this is no surprise because Long Beach has a history of over-policing. Mayor Garcia allowed for our convention center to be turned into concentration camps. Just because you slap some butterflies on the wall and throw some Kamala Harris books in there does not mean that it was not a concentration camp. This is no surprise because under Robert Garcia's watch, the city purchased automatic license plate readers, and that information was then given to ICE. This city received funds to be used to combat COVID, but a majority of those funds went to Long Beach Police Department. The city uses police funding to sweep and dehumanize our unhoused population. In fact, Councilmember Susie Price brought forward an agenda item that stated one solution to this crisis was to find useful policing tools and tactics, and that is a direct quote from a agenda item that she brought forward. So why is policing a solution to everything in the city? You know what ends homelessness? Housing. You know what creates safer communities? Investment in our communities. I ask that as we discuss the need of our city, we resort to real solutions of care, invest in counseling and services and education, not armed officers on campus. Invest in affordable housing, not policing and dehumanizing our unhoused neighbors. Invest in quality services and opportunities for communities, not over-policing them. And I do want to acknowledge that there are moments of celebration in the city, as we witnessed here today. And we constantly talk about that this is a progressive city, but that's just at a surface level. We oftentimes are given flashy items and flashy language, but when we really look at what this city is about, we are not as progressive as we see. This is the perfect example that I just gave to you. The way we treat our unhoused neighbors, the fact that we still have armed police officers on our campuses and make excuses for that. The fact that we allow information to be given to ICE when our own mayor talks about being an immigrant himself. How does that make sense? It is so confusing that we are constantly being told how progressive we are, yet our actions tell us something different. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is TK. Is TK here? Thank you, TK.
Hey, good evening. I wanted to talk about the housing disparity of California. It's the leading in this nation, and according to the 2020 Development of Housing and Urban Development Report, unhoused community in California accounts for 28% of the nation's homeless population, estimated 161,450 unhoused Californians on any given day. This is a growing population. We can no longer ignore it. We want to vote like Americans are so above, and we are morally above other countries and cultures. And the reality is that we can't even take care of our own people that are living on the street. Not everyone that is living on the riverbed and on the house, on the streets, and in their cars, those are students actually living in their cars as well. They're not on drugs. Many of them are productive people that wash themselves and bathe themselves with the stuff that we provide for them out there because we do care for our next fellow human being. We do not have enough housing, period. That looks, what I want to talk about for that is that every city, every state, and every town was mandated in 1969, they were mandated to provide a general plan to provide affordable housing to meet the needs of everyone in the community. And I don't believe that Long Beach has done that because there are a number of cities that have not, and we've checked it. You guys need to do some research on that. We do not have enough housing available. We do not have enough units available. We have people that are living on the riverbed who have housing vouchers and they cannot find a place. We were giving a 30-page report, or 30-page listing of housing and affordable housing, and so many of those had wait lists of at least 2 years or more. We do not have enough buildings. You're building all across this city, and you're putting up places where people can't even afford to live. Many families, working class folks, are living in one bedrooms or studio units right now because they cannot afford anything more. This is a crisis that needs to be addressed. This is something that was mandated, and that the cities continue not to do this. Y'all have a voice in this. Every time it comes to election time, you knock on doors, you ring the phones, you send emails and all. We vote you in these seats to help protect us, but we don't have any of that. You send out police to police people instead of actually giving a care and fixing the situation. And it's real simple to me. Build the houses. People need a house. We don't need shelters. We need houses.
Ma'am, your time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have 2 people online on Zoom.
I'm sorry?
We have 2 on Zoom.
We do. We've normally in the past held those speakers till the end of the meeting, but we can take them right now if you'd like.
They weren't signed up for, okay, got it, understood. So let's move on to the City Council meeting. We're gonna move up item 32 before the hearing. So let's hear item 32.
Item 32 is a report from Public Works, recommendation to adopt specifications and award a contract to Arcadis US Inc. for construction management and inspection services for the Belmont Beach and Aquatic Center project for a total contract amount not to exceed $7,155,500, District 3.
Thank you. Is there a staff report here?
I think the team's coming. Here they are. Eric Lopez.
Thanks, Tom. Vice Mayor, council members, the item before you is for approval of an agreement with Arcadis for the construction management and inspection services that's going to be required as part of the Belmont Beach and Aquatics Center project. The consultant is going to help us with a constructability review. They're going to help us with the final bidding of the project and with the management of construction. So there's a lot of project and construction management in addition to inspection services, including specialized inspections during the course of construction. So we're here to answer any questions. This is a standard process for bigger projects. This is a very complex project that we don't have as much in-house expertise as others, so this consultant will play a very critical role in assisting us to be able to successfully deliver a high-quality project. That concludes that report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Price.
Thank you, and I want to thank city staff for their continued hard work on this project. This has been a project that was started obviously before I took office, and I know that it's been through quite the journey, having gone through Coastal Commission, and now we're dealing with construction, and of course there's cost escalation, but to get to this point is great progress. And so I'm grateful to city staff for the work that they've done on this project, and I look forward to the next step in this project, and hopefully being able to continue to support city staff as they identify creative ways to make the project work and to work within the scope that was outlined by the Coastal Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and that was your motion, Councilwoman? Councilwoman Price, that was a motion, correct? Yes?
Yes, it was. I'm sorry. I was
all right.
just
Is there a
unmuting
second?
myself.
Is there a set? We need a second. Any public comment on this item?
If there are many members of the public that would like to speak on this item, please line up behind the podium, and if using Zoom, use the raise hand feature or dial *9.
So I can face 6th District resident. Looking forward 10 years now into this project. I recently read Mr. Lopez's memo. It looks like we got about 70% of it complete. I'm just curious to see, with respect to the contract that we have with Arcadis, is there any construction guarantees? Because as we know, we're dealing with a supply chain worldwide issue, not just a Long Beach issue. And, what once was projected as costing about $80-85 million is now being projected as costing 110 plus million. So just curious to see if there's anyone present from Arcadis, or if any city staff could answer when exactly can we put a shovel into the ground, because we only have so much Thailand's money, and as you can see, the oil prices are going down, so we got to just get what we can get. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Joys of being a climate change activist in an oil-run town. Dave Shukla, 3rd District. I wrote an opposition in writing. I just want to create more space for a better project. But I'm also generally very concerned that in 10 years, the pool may not even be usable because of the actions, not only of the city, but really the fossil fuel economy throughout California. I really, 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 really wish that we would be able to have more in-house resources for a city that contracts out so much that it can't do certain things, like being able to monitor for whether projects in the tidal zone, the coastal zone, are sufficiently safe. That sounds like something the city should invest some monies in itself. And frankly, a lot of these sweetheart deals don't seem to build up the city's capacities, but hollow them out further. And that's unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment?
We have 3 speakers on Zoom. Jessica Quintana. Time begins now.
I apologize. I think I had left my hand up. Sorry, folks.
No problem. Our next speaker is Ann Cantrell.
Good evening, Ann Cantrell. And I think this expenditure of $7 million is premature. The Coastal Commission put conditions on their approval of this pool, and these conditions have not been completed yet. You still have several more that have to be completed before you get your coastal development permit. That would be the time to hire outside consultants. Until that time, I would think that our city staff should be able to handle any of the requirements that are needed. If you're going to spend money on an outside consultant, I would suggest you hire somebody to tell you where this pool is going to be in 30, 40 years with sea level rise. Even with a 7-foot plinth that it's going to be built on, you'll need a boat to get to it because all the streets and beach around it will be flooded. So you're, again, pouring money into a rat hole. I urge you not to vote yes on this. Thank you.
For the individual with the telephone number ending in 5011, your time begins now.
Yeah, Anna Christensen, representing the Los Rios Wetlands Task Force. Also, I was the lead speaker for the Long Beach Area Peace Network. I'm going to read this statement backwards. I have no doubt tonight that this City Council will engage in climate appeasement, as it has consistently voted to appease the 14-member stakeholder committee for the BBAC, consisting of those who stood to benefit and do stand to benefit financially or otherwise. The BBAC is destined to be demolished or contribute to the debris as sea level rises, whether it's a future storm or just sea level rise. Tearing it down is part of the EIR. Who says this? Bill McGuire, author of the recently published Hothouse Earth, Emeritus Professor of Geophysical and Climate Hazards at University College London and advisor to the UK government's Natural Hazard Working Point. The crucial point is that there is no chance of avoiding a perilous, all-pervasive climate breakdown. We have now passed the point of no return and can expect summers where temperate latitudes will be baking hot and where our oceans are destined to become warm, acidic, and higher. A child born in 2020 will face a far more hostile world than its grandparents did. Now we are going to pay the price for our complacency in the face of storms, floods, droughts, and heat waves that will easily surpass current extremes. To spend money, Tidelands money, any kind of money, on doing anything other than getting ready to deal with a rise of 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius, which will seriously threaten the stability of global society, is simply being in denial. You are climate deniers, whether you admit it or not. And also, you are denying the fact that the majority of Long Beach doesn't have a place to swim. This pool in the richest, whitest corner of town is not going to help anybody survive the heat wave. It is designed at the behest, and it will contribute to more all-white swim teams and polo teams. So I don't know. So if I feel the need, according to him, to glue myself to a motorway or blockade or an oil refinery, I should do it. Yeah, drive an electric car, use public transport, walk or cycle, switch to a tariff, eat less meat, stop flying. But mostly lobby your elected representatives and use your vote wisely to put in power a government that walks the talk on this climate emergency. You're not walking, you're talking, and you're saying the wrong thing tonight with that vote. The vote that I know is going to come, the vote that is in total, absolute denial of what the city really needs and what people in the city need to survive.
Concludes public comment.
Thank you. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilwoman Price?
Aye.
Councilman Supernaw?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro? Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Councilman Austin? Vice Mayor Richardson?
Yes.
Aye.
Received. Thank you. Councilwoman Sarro?
Aye.
Motion is carried 9-0.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and do the hearing now, please.
Report from Financial Management, recommendation to conduct a budget hearing to receive and discuss an overview of the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget citywide.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin the presentation for the hearing. And I'll open it up with some comments, and then we'll go and move forward through the presentation through Mr. Modica. And I'll make my comments rather quickly. We're presenting, of course, our budget. There's 4 main areas in this budget around infrastructure, addressing homelessness, a safe city for all, and the creation of a climate office. And this, of course, budget is a partnership with the city manager. The finance team has done a great job, as they always do, to present the budget. We presented this budget earlier, actually today, to the community and to the press, and so we're just going to do a little bit of a recap today. Also want folks to know that the biggest part of this budget, as we'll talk about today, is a 5-year investment plan in Measure A. This constitutes over $500 million investment in parks, community centers, and so much of our public infrastructure. It's the largest investment in modern history as it relates to infrastructure for the city, and we're going to learn about it tonight, and it's very, very exciting for the community. We also know this includes new park spaces, new playgrounds, community centers, and there's also some additional really great items in here, including fully funding the Killingsfield Memorial and the Cambodian Veterans Memorial, the Latino Cultural Center Mercado project, which has been important to the Latino community, investments at our ranchos, which are also very critical for members of the council and the community, and also numerous other projects which will be highlighted. Along other facility improvements are also our fire stations, of course, public libraries that are also going to be part of this infrastructure plan, and which we're going to go over tonight, which I think folks will be excited about. We also are doing major corridor improvements along in this plan, which you're going to hear about from Mr. Modica today. Those include huge investments in Market Street, Artesia, Studebaker, Anaheim, the Atlantic Corridor, and the new LGBTQ cultural district on Broadway. You're going to hear about expanding our REACH teams tonight, going from 2 to 3, and spending over $77 million in housing services, including a new Project Home Key. You're also going to hear tonight from City Manager about investments in safety. This includes 20 new police officer positions, including 16 bike officer positions and quality of life officers, very similar to some of the discussions that the council supported here at the City Council, and additional community crisis response programs. And something that we're very proud of is the creation for the first time in the history of the city, the creation of a new Office of Climate Action. This new office, which will be a 9-member office right now is in the budget, is dedicated to taking on the climate crisis that we are currently in, advocating and implementing our new climate action and adaptation plan, which the council will be beginning its process of implementation, I believe, at the next meeting, Mr. Modica, where it comes in front of the council. And of course, working and continuing to work on our transition away from fossil fuels. This is an office that will be report directly to the city manager's office and the city manager. And so it's the first time we're having an office that is going to be able to work across departments on this critical issue for us here in the community. And we are very excited about this new office. There are additional budget highlights. There's too many to mention, but I want to just uplift a few. Of course, we continue to invest in our health department around pandemic response. We're creating a full-time education officer position to be our main liaison to the Long Beach College Promise, our community college, Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, and Long Beach Unified School District. We are adding historic funding for the arts, as well as continuing to ensure that we fund the Cambodian Cultural Center, the Latino Cultural Center, and the work that's happening already at the African American Cultural Center within Measure B. We are being forward-thinking on tree trimming and ensuring that our structural tree trimming fund is well funded, so that we're moving forward on that issue. And another item that's I think really important that we've been discussing is providing towing fee relief to people that are experiencing homelessness or that are unhoused. And we're also going to be looking at, I talked to Mr. Modica about this, looking at eliminating possibly parking tickets and the cost of tickets for people that might be unhoused living in their cars. If someone is experiencing homelessness and they receive a parking ticket or two, that can be very, very difficult for them to pick their life back up, to find the money to pay for these tickets, and to help them and their families. And so this is an amnesty program to help people that are unhoused and ensure that they don't have those costs. And we'll continue to eliminate library fees. That's something that Councilmember Uranga first championed many years ago on the council. And finally, and I think very importantly, this budget has our full reserves replenished, as we've done before. And for the last 8 years that we've done this budget, we have been able to ensure that our reserves were our full capacity to really to think about any future emergencies. And so I'm very grateful. This is obviously the last budget that we are presenting, that I'm presenting as mayor. I'm very grateful to the staff and to the community. And there's a lot in this budget besides what I just highlighted. But to recap, the 4 areas which I believe are the most significant and really stand out are around this $500 million infrastructure plan, the largest in our modern history, around the climate office and what that means for the community, our safety investments that are being made, and of course, finally, just making sure that our homelessness response continues to be one that we are investing in and moving forward. With that, I'm going to turn this back over to Mr. Modica, who will go through the budget in a much more line-by-line format here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we're excited to be here with you tonight, Council. This is a really important day. This is one of the most important things that you as a body do, is consider our fiscal plan for the year. This represents our priorities of where we're going to be spending dollars and how we're going to be organizing ourselves for the next year to really improve the lives of our community. Before we jump into the numbers, I do want to highlight some of the incredible successes that we've had over the past year as an organization. These are just a few of them, but I really think it's important to pause and think about all the things that we have done. We have implemented a Recovery Act plan of $271 million. That's 80 different recovery programs being designed or implemented. We have provided more than $8 million worth of assistance to 700 local businesses and nonprofits. We have dispersed $44.5 million in rental relief to 6,100 residents. We continue to make affordable housing a huge priority, and since 2020, more than 880 affordable units have either been completed, under construction, or proposed throughout the city. We were one of the first cities to get our housing element certified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, so we'll have a housing plan for the next 8 years. We have continued to expand our Project Room Key program, which is providing homeless or housing for people experiencing homelessness, adding 26 room locations totaling 274 rooms. And we have made incredible progress over the past 2 years at adding shelter beds, adding 552 shelter beds, bringing our total capacity to 994. Homelessness is clearly one of our biggest priorities. We have done over 1,000 visits to various encampments, providing outreach to 1,800 people. We regularly see at the multi-service center 3,000 visitors a month coming through that facility looking for assistance. We have abated 1.25 million square feet of graffiti, removed 2,100 tons of litter, filled more than 40,000 potholes, recovered 112 firearms and 98 firearm-related arrests. And we've seen a dedicated effort by our police department and all their partners to address the epidemic of shootings that are going on throughout the entire nation in the past year. And very happy to report that there is a 16.7% decrease of citywide shootings compared to last year. And our fire department has been very, very busy responding to over 76,000 fire, marine safety, and other emergency incidences. One of our big focuses in disaster preparedness was to create a backup 911 center. We've always had plans and ability to do that, but this is a coordinated, dedicated station that we can easily switch over to in the event of an outage, and that has 14 workstations. We launched our 11-member Youth Advisory Council. We've really focused on early literacy efforts with 2,000 development kits that we distributed to parents and caregivers. And we've served over 50,000 youth through our literacy development programs. Our airport created an incredible new asset as we moved over for the first time in over 100 years into a new area where we do ticketing and have a ticketing lobby and a checked baggage system. And by the end of this year, we're going to have a new baggage claim facility, which is really going to create an improvement at our airport. We are on track next week to adopt our very first ever climate action and adaptation plan, an incredibly comprehensive plan over the next 20 years to set very aggressive goals on climate action. One of those goals is for us to be transitioning over the next several years to 100% renewable energy, and the water department is taking that first step for us. So later this year, they'll be the first of our departments to move towards 100% renewable energy, and we'll be following that up over the next several years with our other operations. We've also earned First Place Digital City Award for the Center of Digital Government. And so I'd like to turn a little bit now to the budget. The FY23 budget is $3.2 billion. That's 36 different fund groups and 126 funds and 23 departments. One great thing about this budget is last year we thought we were going to be in a cutting scenario, but we were able to maintain current services, but not really enhance. It was kind of status quo. This year, we're able to actually maintain all of those services, prevent further reductions, and make some additional investments in kind of these key areas that you have shared with us as our policy board, that we hear from our residents, that our departments have identified as well. And so we've organized this into investments in about 9 different areas. And what I really like about the approach of the budget this year is we started even earlier community outreach. We did that in January, and we went and we asked a number of our residents what their priorities were, and they roughly fit into these 9 categories. And now we're kind of presenting the budget around that input that we heard in January, and then of course we'll take more input again in August. And so going through each of these categories for addressing homelessness, we are adding a 3rd REACH team. So we have about 22 total outreach workers, which include 2 REACH teams. And REACH is a higher level of outreach. So it is our nursing staff, it is mental health resources in addition to normal homeless outreach. And so now we'll add a 3rd team. So we'll go from 22 budgeted positions doing outreach to 25. Last year, we added a position that is able to answer the phone and take calls from either residents or people experiencing homelessness instead of leaving just a message and getting back to them. And so that person's been very, very busy, and we're looking to add 2 more counselor positions that can help us with some after hours and weekend work as well. We are looking to really address our LA River and our San Gabriel River. We have done incredible progress with Caltrans to address our freeway on-ramps, and that's been a really good partnership. The next step for us is working with the county and getting our MOU in place, and Long Beach putting its own funding for both police, clean team, and homeless outreach workers to go and have a higher level of service in our riverbeds. We're funding additional rapid response, funding cleanup and outreach in our parks, and also in the towing fund, supporting our program we've had in place for a little while about waivers of funds and of fees and impound fees and tickets for people experiencing homelessness. In the area of community safety, we are looking at a one-time funding program for a pilot for $980,000 for a community crisis response program. This is funding that the police department had in the current year's budget that they are recommending go into this program for next year, where an unarmed team can help respond to people experiencing mental health challenges, substance abuse, and quality of life related 911 calls. We have a new police chief, and he's really taken with his team a very critical look at the budget and how things could be structured differently to move forward some new initiatives. And so he's proposing a collaborative response and engagement bureau in the police department. We'll hear a lot more about this in their presentation next week. But the highlight of that is we would be adding 20 new police officers, really to disrupt the primary factors of crime through proactive models and a community policing model. That will be made up of 16 bike officers, so each division will have 4 additional bike officers, and 4 quality of life officers, which actually doubles the amount of quality of life officers in our divisions. We currently have 4, we'll now have 8, and then we have 2 more that are dedicated to the Blue Line. We are getting prepared in the event that we receive the SAFER grant to provide a match so that we can continue to fund Engine 17 operations in the fire department. And a lot of the great work to reduce some of the shootings in our community have come through the coordinated response team. So funding that again at $1 million and a one-time from Measure A. In the area of equity, inclusion, health, and quality of life, one of the things the council asked us unanimously this year was to fund a commission on women and girls. Those do take staffing resources to create new commissions to make sure that they're being that commission is supported, and so we'll have a position that will help that, as well as the Human Relations Commission, Justice Fund, and our racial equity and reconciliation efforts. We'll be increasing our funding for language access, also supporting our Office of Equity as they work with all the different departments. In the fire department, we've had a successful program through a fire captain who does the diversity recruitment program that's been funded with one-time dollars, and now we're adding it structurally. And in the Office of Veteran Affairs, you got an update on our new strategic plan. Part of that was calling for additional resources to do the Office of Veterans Affairs, and we're adding a position now as well. Further in equity, inclusion, health, and quality of life, we have, again, $511,000 for community-based grants around youth. We'll be funding our youth festival. Something we've tried out during the pandemic and has been very successful is waiving library late fees. That's a big item for equity and eliminates those barriers for entry for people who need the resources the most. And so we are looking to make that an established permanent program. One of our biggest requests from our library is additional funding for their collections and resources, including an inclusive and diverse library collection. In particular, electronic resources have gotten very expensive recently, and so adding about $800,000, half in structural, half in one-time, is going to make a big difference. Also adding a senior librarian to focus on multilingual collections. That was called for in the audit and is supported very much by the library. And then a number of different enhancements and upgrades to positions at our animal shelter, who do an amazing job getting our live release rate numbers very, very high and doing adoptions and supporting them as they go through their restructuring. We hear a lot from the council and from the business community about the importance of business attraction, support, and economic development. We're adding an analyst position to be a business liaison and support outreach efforts. We're adding a whole host of positions in our development services fund, in our one-stop shop and customer service reps to ensure full staffing at the permit center, adding planners to help the public counter and our zoning telephone line, adding a planner to deal with work in the coastal zone, and a number of other resources to help meet our housing general plan. In the area of arts, culture, and tourism, we are continuing the support for our CVB at $4.6 million, the Museum of Art at $425, and our Arts Council at $454. Both the Convention Center and our major arts organizations are benefiting from Measure B, which is adding another $2.1 million. And we have a whole host of Recovery Act programs that fund our visitor supportive attractions and our recovery as well. In the new items, we're looking to create a new Pier H Bureau to oversee Queen Mary operations. We're adding some events coordinators with Queen Mary, and we're still in the middle of that negotiation with the port on the future of the Queen Mary, and so these positions would be created first in the city and then be able to be transitioned over, and we're working collaboratively with the port on that. Also want some additional support for our brand new contract with the Long Beach Convention Center, and really starting to get into higher level planning with the Olympics and bringing on some outside expertise. Eric will talk a little bit about our capital improvement program. It's $176 million this year, but the real exciting part of it, the mayor mentioned, is our new 5-year infrastructure plan. $522 million, $150 million of that will be through a Measure A bond, $88 million of additional Measure A revenues, and then we're matching that with about $284 million of external funding sources that we've been really working hard to secure, both from county, state, and federal. And we're also staffing up in our Public Works Department in anticipation of all that infrastructure funding that will be coming towards us. We're also looking at some of our other critical needs. One thing I'm real excited about is we've never really had a tree trimming program in our parks. We basically have only responded to emergencies, and so we are increasing that emergency response, but also creating a new 7-year annual tree trimming cycle in our parks, something we've never had before. We're using Measure A funding to remove structurally defective trees, and we're also investing in our network camera modernization program for $2.7 million. One of the innovative areas that we'd like to propose is we hear from all of you, council, about the status of our restrooms in our parks and the need to make those cleaner and the need to also address people who are occupying those as dwellings, which is not safe for them or the community. And so we're creating a new proposal for a Park Safety Ambassador Clean Restroom and Safe Playground Initiative. We'd be basically converting 3.5 FTE of positions that currently serve 5 parks and turning it into a 12-person team that can do all 38 parks citywide that have bathrooms. And you'll see the list down here below. We would use funding to lock the doors on those bathrooms at night and then reopen them again when the park is back open, and create positions that can both be eyes and ears, be our safety ambassadors, but then also address some of the minor maintenance issues as they're out there. In the area of climate change and environmental sustainability, the mayor mentioned we're creating a new Office of Climate Action that'll be in my office, and we'll have 4 brand new FTEs combined with 5.3 we currently have in sustainability for a force of 9.3 total bodies that can really be dedicated to climate action. We are creating a new public affairs assistant in our energy resources department to help communicate strategies to address climate change. Adding a planner position to implement 16 of those climate action and adaptation plans, doing additional inspections on our oil wells, And we hear a lot from this council about questions about our future with oil, what are our liabilities, how are we different than a lot of other cities, and what are our realm of possibilities for addressing how we use oil in the future and how we transition away into the future. And so we'd like to bring on a third-party consultant to help answer some of those legal questions and policy questions. One of our biggest challenges internally that actually every organization is going through, but we feel it pretty acutely in government, is hiring and bringing people into the organization. We have a very low unemployment rate, meaning that there's not a lot of people out there are in the market, and so we also need to improve our hiring process and go quicker and faster and open up lists more and have that available. So we're enhancing our civil service department in a partnership with the executive director. We're enhancing HR to add a position focused on classification and compensation. We are adding structural funding for citywide staff development and training, and we're adding positions to address cybersecurity and data privacy. The last category is really one that often is overlooked, but throughout the year we get services that actually become more expensive to maintain but are expected by this council and by our community. A good example is tree trimming. When the cost of tree trimming goes up, if we don't adjust our budget, we actually trim less trees and go on a longer cycle. And so it's real important to add to those programs to meet the expectations, like a 6-year tree trimming cycle, to fund the cost of water so that our parks get the same amount of water that they need, to fund the using alternatives to weed abatement than as opposed to Roundup, and to fund things like our animal care services and our Compassion Saves, which needs about $500,000 more in medical costs every year. And so that's our budget. The good news is we were able to basically keep the shortfall at the same amount. We're still in a shortfall, so we still have a structural deficit, but it had previously been planned to be covered using Recovery Act. We reported that to you a little while ago, and that was about $12 million, and we are still in that same range. So while we're able to make these additions, we didn't increase that shortfall. We are planning for the Measure M litigation loss. We had that in our financial projections just in case that happened. And so with those two together, our structural shortfall is about $20 million. And we're going to need to be addressing that in the future. Our emergency reserves and our general fund operating reserves are all intact and available in case we need them for an emergency. And so while this year is a really positive budget, we are not doing reductions, and we're actually able to make some changes where needed. Next year is going to be a little bit more difficult. We never know what the actual projection is going to be. These are estimates, but right now it's estimated at about $25.6 million. But then you'll see in 25 and 26 it actually is positive again. And so we'll be really addressing that shortfall over the next year and coming up with strategies, both revenue and cost, to be able to bring that budget into balance. And so we have a pretty significant timeline. There's going to be a lot of work in August and September as the council considers this budget. It's really your document now for you to decide whether this fits your needs and whether it needs to be adjusted. We'll be doing community meetings as well to get public input, and then adopt it by September 13th. So we really encourage the community to get engaged. You can attend budget hearings, attend the budget oversight committee, come to the virtual budget meetings that we're going to have, and we also have digital comment cards. And so finally, just to sum up, we are a city of incredible accomplishments. I'm just so proud of the work that our team does on your behalf, and we are a full-service city that has a wide variety of comprehensive services. We've, through a pandemic and some of the most difficult times in our history, we've maintained our resources and even increased support for our community. We have incredibly committed, dedicated employees who just blow me away with their performance every single day. And we also have a really strong basis in financial management, and we provide that foundation for really smart, strategic, and prudent decisions and investments. I can't thank the mayor and council enough for your leadership and your guidance and giving us your direction for what your priorities are. And we have incredible partnerships with our city auditor, city attorney, city prosecutor, the clerk, our civil service executive director, harbor executive director, and water general manager. And with that, we're excited to present this budget to you. I will actually have Eric go through probably the most exciting part, which is our $522 million Measure A infrastructure plan. And then we're available to answer questions. We have a number of departments here, and we have a number of hearings coming up where you'll get to hear more specific parts of the budget over the next 3 weeks. So I will turn it now to Eric Lopez.
Thank you, Tom. Mayor, members of the City's Council, it's really an honor and a privilege to be able to provide a detailed outline of Measure A, of the original investment plan and of the new proposed 5-year investment plan. So everybody is familiar with the original map. There's a lot of these projects have been delivered. The vast majority were like 90% complete. Every day we're getting closer to 100%. So we're now ready to transition to a new 5-year investment plan. The original plan started out with an original target of around $100 million. We've actually have been able to allocate a total of $165.65 million between fiscal year 17 and 22. The three main capital improvement categories that receive the lion's share of the funding is our mobility program, which is our local residential streets, our major streets, our secondary streets, sidewalk repairs, ADA curb ramps, etc. And then the Parks and Recreation category that includes playgrounds, some community centers, some sports fields, and other improvements within our parks. And then the third biggest category, public facilities, our libraries, our public safety facilities, our health facilities, etc., have also received major investments as a result of Measure A. So in total, with the original plan, we've been able to fund 38 park playgrounds, community centers, and park facility projects. Just about 640 lane miles of streets that have been repaired, some through slurry seal, some through grind and overlay, some through complete reconstruction. We've also been able to improve 7.5 miles of alleys, of which 5 miles were formerly dirt alleys that needed complete rehabilitation. We've been able to repair 1.37 million square feet of sidewalks, and over 2,680 curb ramps have been installed in the last 5 years or so. For public facilities, we've been able to improve 22 total facilities, including 4 fire stations, 5 health and public safety projects, and 10 library projects. These investments made possible by Measure A are located citywide and have really helped improve our local infrastructure. So how do we get to this new plan? Back in the fall, we had a study session where we talked about our infrastructure needs and funding strategies to fund some of those needs. That study session was followed up with a detailed memorandum that was delivered to the Mayor and City Council on July 13th. And here we are today presenting the new 5-year Measure A infrastructure investment plan, totaling just under $522 million. Of which $322 million is being set aside for mobility. And again, mobility, think streets, think sidewalks, right-of-way type of improvements. $48 million for park improvements, $50 million for public facilities, $81.6 million for right-of-way, water quality, and climate action type improvements, and $10 million for critical facilities and a grant match reserve. We're working to strategically position ourselves to maximize the amount of federal funding that we're able to bring in, and having these reserves will really help position us to be more competitive and maximize being able to leverage Measure A even more. And then we also have about $9.8 million in one-times to help fund security cameras, some parks tree maintenance, installation of bathroom locks that were mentioned earlier. This plan does not include some of our specialty funding sources like Tidelands and AB 32. Those would get appropriated on an annual basis as funds are available. And it also doesn't include sources funding that's going to come as part of the federal infrastructure package that is starting to arrive. At least comparative opportunities are starting to arrive for us to apply for. So this base 521 million can grow, and it is a base amount that's gonna bring a lot of improvements citywide, but it's also gonna set us up to be able to compete for more external funding. This is just a breakdown of the different categories in our capital improvement program and the amount of funding that shows how we reached the 521 million. I want to highlight that, the Measure A bond that we've been talking about, the 150 million, would come in about 3 different tranches, about approximately 50 million each. At least that's the current plan, and will help fund a lot of the improvements that you're going to see in the map shortly. 88 million is expected to come in as part of the traditional Measure A for a total of $238 million from Measure A alone, and that would be leveraged with about 283 million of additional funding that has been secured, or transportation funding that's expected from sources like gas tax, SB1, Measure R, etc. So here's our new map. Our new map shows different categories of projects, from parks to public facilities to right-of-way, water quality, climate action, and then our mobility projects. This 5-year infrastructure investment plan is larger than the last one, substantially larger, and will reach areas throughout the entire city. I'm not going to go through every single project, but we listed them in the slides along with the totals for each category. We have a slide for funding for parks, for public facilities, and our right-of-way, water quality, and climate action type of improvements, as well of our citywide improvements and mobility type of projects. So we're here to answer any specific questions, but the map really is gonna provide a really good sense of how these projects are spread out and where the improvements are gonna happen. So with that, we stand by for any questions.
Thank you, and that's a significant update and report. Even the second time hearing it, it's been good to see the investment. And I want to just again note, and as we go to questions and comments from the council, just want to note and again thank that this would not be possible if it had not been for the voters of Long Beach on 2 occasions voting in Measure A and voting in the permanent Measure A sales tax measure. Those 2 measures combined are transforming our city. I would argue it's the most significant thing that happened in our city in the last decade or 2 from an investment perspective. And it's great to see just all of our playgrounds and streets and public facilities all being reinvested in. And it makes you wonder where we would be without Measure A and without these investments. And certainly it's the progress is really great. So I want to thank you, Eric, for Mr. Lopez, for the presentation and for having your team out there ready to implement this 5-year plan, which is really significant. So I have a motion and a second to receive and file. I'm going to go through the council questions and those that have queued up. Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for the sake of time, and I know it's late, I'm going to save most of my questions for our community budget discussion and our ongoing discussions that we have about the budget. I really want to there's a lot here, and it's very exciting. So I just want to spend a moment just highlighting some of the things that are really, really exciting for my constituents. And I think it's important because this is bittersweet for me. This will be my last budget as the 9th District Council member. And I see reflected in here a number of long-standing priorities for my constituents that we've worked on for quite some time. So you got it right. You got it right in the infrastructure plan. The priorities in the budget are great. And I want to thank you for making sure that the input that the community has put forward and that the council has put forward is truly reflected in what we have here. First, just a few things about the budget before I jump into infrastructure. I'm talking mostly about infrastructure, but a few things on the budget. Thank you, Mr. Modica, for making sure that the community's priorities that have been brought up over the past year are reflected, and you typically always do that. I see it even more so now, and I think it's because you started your budget process earlier. I think that's a good idea moving forward, to continue that conversation earlier. Obviously homelessness has been a top priority of the City Council. I'm really proud to see another reach team there. City Council made a motion not long ago, a few months ago, asking to explore what it would take to expand that. I know that, anytime we expand staffing, we have to think about the fiscal cost and the impact, and you were able to do it in a way that makes sense. And so thank you for that expansion. Project Room Key has been a success in the city. We know there are some high priority targets in the city. Continue making your progress. I'm glad to see that there's priority funding here, and we look forward to seeing that manifest. In terms of public safety, we made a motion at City Council to really double down on community policing. That wasn't the beginning of the conversation. We know we had a pilot in Central Long Beach, in North Long Beach. The City Council watched it. The results you can point to, there's a direct correlation to those community walks and community policing to safer communities. We've seen that. We also know that if you want to have a safer community, you have to invest in communities that aren't safe. And there's investments here into communities that we know have had longstanding issues with crime. So together, I think this is a real commitment here. I know we asked for a certain amount. We said 25. We see 16 officers here with an additional commitment to quality of life. So thank you for that. I fully support that proposal in community policing. Now on to infrastructure. There's a lot of big wins here. First, I got a lot of questions when the press came out and talked a little bit about a bond. I've reiterated to folks, there's no new taxes here. This is Measure A and existing revenue sources. We're just being strategic the way we did in the very first infrastructure plan and how we plan out the next 5 years and leveraging the resources, the revenue streams that we have now. But it allows us to focus on some key priorities. I love that Artesia Boulevard is highlighted here. Artesia Boulevard is a whole host of funding sources, but it's going to be a major transformation of this corridor. When my predecessor, Steve Neal, took office, in his swearing-in speech, he said, Uptown should be a preview to downtown, and we should be ashamed of the condition of Artesia Boulevard, because every day hundreds of thousands of people drive the 91 freeway. Their only experience of Long Beach is what they see on Artesia Boulevard. And now we can finally say, after 12 years, we're fully funded to move forward with a complete renovation of Artesia Boulevard. It's not just Artesia Boulevard, streets like Harding Street and Cherry Avenue and South Street. By the end of this program, every major corridor in the 9th District will be brand new, because we've already done some. When you put it all together, every major corridor from Harding to South Street to Artesia will all be done, and that's significant to note. I also want to just acknowledge the investments in Houghton Park have been a priority for quite some time. In here, you have additional investment for the things we weren't able to do. We did the Doris Topsy Over Community Center. We did the Ron Arias Health Equity Center. But what about the parking lot? What about the picnic areas that are just heavily used? They're here. What about the playground that's used more than any other playground in our district? It's here. It's reflected. So this is a significant investment in quality of life. There's a commitment to Ramona Park here. We know that we got state funding for the playground. There's also funding here to take the next step on the Ramona Park pool in terms of design. That is a significant investment into North Long Beach, and we're really proud about that. We see things like pickleball at DeForest Park, complementing the things like the new Environmental Education Center that will open this September. We're really excited about that. Things like murals. When we first started in office, we painted a bunch of murals on the areas that are most tagged, and it made a meaningful difference, because some of these projects take a long time. Murals take a few months, and we were able to show that you can transform a corridor by investing in a mural. But over time, it's been hard on those murals, and we see a $500,000 investment into maintaining murals in our communities that makes a huge difference. We just lost a mural recently, a beautiful Billie Holiday mural on Orange Avenue. We lost because we didn't have the resources to maintain it. I want to see us use those resources to invest in a mural arts program that hires local muralists to make a real difference here. There's a lot more, but the last two things I would say is I want to revisit Measure US. I see our youth fund that's been a priority has a $500K youth fund in here. I want to see how we can increase it. And then secondly, it's really important. We partner with the Arts Council to invest in grants and to match grants through our SAP fund. We were at a level of, I believe, $550,000 in SAP in 2020. I see that we're at about 450. We're about 50K short of where we used to be. I think we should try our best to make that whole, because a lot of our districts really count on, and a lot of our local place-based arts, and they really count on that funding. So I'll stop there because that's my time. But this is a really exciting budget. We should all be proud of this work, and we should make sure that this budget is adopted and we can really make a meaningful difference over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a motion to receive and file. The second is Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia and Tom and Eric and just everyone in the city that contributed to this budget. This is only the first look that I've had at it, but it is a lot to digest. But I'm definitely excited. I'm going to save my questions for future meetings, as I still have a lot of reading to do. But just a couple things that you talked about tonight. I love the funding for the Office of Climate Action. That's really important, and I'm happy to see that. I'm excited to see the funding for the oil abandonment study and the recommended 25% increase in abandonment funding due to the high oil prices is also nice to see in the budget. I'm stoked to see the increase in the quality of life and bike officers, the Women's Commission, funding for the Senior Center. This is all really good stuff. And then, the significant increases for homeless outreach to tackle those hot spots that so many of the residents are seeing. I also like enhancing our fire department's diversity recruitment program, and then ending late fees for the libraries and forgiving those existing fees. I think are going to be important to get people back in the library. Improving our business liaison services are also important. So I can't wait to see the presentations from all the departments and get more detail in the weeks ahead. But I just look forward to hearing and learning more about what's happening in the budget. And just a huge thank you for all the folks that worked on this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank staff for the presentation. Excellent budget presentation so far. And I know we're going to go into the various department budgets in the weeks to come. So I too will reserve my comments and questions for those individual department briefings and budget hearings. I did have a question, Eric, for you on the amount of money that we're setting aside for competitive grant matching opportunities. Do we expect any of the federal infrastructure dollars? I know they're competitive grants, but do we expect any of them to be grant matching opportunities?
Councilmember, yes, we do. So we know of one program that's going to be getting federal infrastructure funding, the Active Transportation program that's run through Caltrans and Metro. And that, if you have a match, could be 5%, 10%, you get extra points to be more competitive for award of those projects. So some other established federal grant programs also have those types of policies where with a match you can increase your chances of being successful in that competition. So yes, we do expect that.
Okay, so of the roughly $10 million that we've set aside for a number of things, including grant match, do you think that's enough money that we've set aside for grant match?
I think it's a good number for now to get started. The 10 million, it is being split 5 million for critical facilities and 5 million as a grant match. As more federal funding opportunities are released and we start competing for them, we'll be able to more directly answer that question. But at this point, we think it's a good place to start.
Okay, I think it might be a good idea to just have a little bit of flexibility there in case you need to move some money around to make us competitive for those types of opportunities. I know we've talked a little bit at the infrastructure committee about what the federal opportunities are going to look like, and we just don't know. And we want to be at the ready for when those opportunities come. But overall, I want to thank you and our city manager. I think you guys did a great job reaching out to every council office and making sure that the budget priorities for this year and the infrastructure priorities for this year reflect the needs of every council district so that every community in our very diverse city can thrive. And I know each and every one of us probably has specific projects we want to call out, but I think the most important thing right now for me to note is what a great infrastructure proposal this is in terms of our citywide efforts. Every community is getting touched positively in the area of infrastructure. And as we heard in BOC today, infrastructure continues to remain one of the top 5 priorities. I think it's the top third or fourth priority for residents citywide. So I think keeping that at the forefront of our citywide efforts is hugely important. And I appreciate everything you've done to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Austin.
Thank you so much. And I will truly keep my comments brief because I was able to weigh in a little bit during the budget oversight process just a couple of hours ago, along with council members Uranga and Price. I want to just commend staff on a job well done. I think our process, having an early engagement process with the community actually is reflected in many of the highlights and recommendations in this budget from the mayor and city manager. And so commend everyone who had anything to do with putting this together. Believe it or not, most of us haven't had a sneak preview of the budget. We learned this process just a few hours ago, like most everybody else. And so there's a big binder here to go through and to dig through in terms of getting into the details. And I'm sure we will all have lots of questions, but to use the word of the night, I share the enthusiasm and excitement about this budget. I know everybody's excited to see a number of projects that are near and dear to each and every one of our hearts. I mean, throughout the city, get funded, particularly with this infrastructure investment plan. And I want to commend the Public Works team for being transparent, particularly with the Measure A dollars. These dollars are scrutinized. These are dollars that we went to the voters and asked for their support to help us rebuild and restore our city. And doing so transparently, I think, is very, very important. There's a few things along with mental health, our REACH team. We're expanding our reach and our ability to help those who are dealing with mental health crises in our city and supporting and complementing our public safety. I think that's very, very important work that's going to be funded in this budget. And there's so much more. But I just want to lift up our staff. Tom, you knocked it out the park with the recommendations. Again, we'll get into the details. There are a few things that pique my interest, like the education officer. I'm interested to learning more about what that will accomplish for us and the mission behind creating a position like that. Yeah, so much more. But looking forward to the process. Looking forward to a robust community engagement process. And we have tools that we will be employing and asking for input from the public. I think that's going to be very, very important throughout this process. And over the course of the next few weeks, I look forward to the conversation along with my colleagues about the fiscal FY23 budget. So thank you all very much and look forward to engaging.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilwoman Sarro.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to just add my thanks to Tom as well as all the team that's really worked on this budget to get it to where it is now, because I feel like we've had a lot of conversation in the past year and that you've heard us and you've figured out how to at least get our streets repaired somehow, one way or another, if not all, at least starting on them. And just overarchingly, I think that we're putting money into investing in addressing our unhoused issue, as well as our overall community safety, not just with both fire, police, and also ensuring that we're addressing our just really huge issue of climate change. So I'm really glad to see that, and overall, just all the things we can continue to do to help with our recovery as far as economic development goes. I think that in general, there are a lot of things, a project I want to list out in District 6 because I feel that it's been a long time coming that we're able to work on fixing our parks, our libraries, as well as our streets. And but I'll save them as we get a presentation for each of them, as I know it's been a long night already. But I really, this is my second year being part of the council, going over a second budget. So it's just been so exciting for me to just have dialogue about improvements that can be made. And I already see them happening, and I look forward for more of it through this budget process. So, I started out doing Friday Fix the Six because it's really about literally fixing it, the streets, sharing that the trees are trimmed, and that really the city cares about every part of our district, every single district. And I hope that we can highlight that investments are being made in each and every one of our district to show that we're one whole city. And that we want to make improvements overall. So I see that in this budget, and I'm really excited to have more dialogue and engage our community in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Uranga.
Thank you, Mary. And I too want to thank staff for quite an exhaustive report. It takes a lot of work. What was that? 126 different funds that you have to manage, 23 departments. That's a lot of work, and with a $3+ billion budget, that's quite a lot. So I can see the magnificent work that you guys are doing. One of the things that I want to emphasize is that today at BOC Budget Oversight Committee, we did have some surveys that were shared with us. And I want to emphasize to the audience and those watching and those here that, participate. And we're going to be having 3 virtual community meetings on August 11th, 17th, and the 22nd. And so I really want to encourage the audience and residents to please participate in those virtual committee meetings, because that's where a lot of information is not only going to be shared, but it's an opportunity for us to listen to you and what are your priorities. One thing that really stood out to me, however, in terms of my district, is that we talked about the major corridors, Atlantic and Long Beach. I have 2 business corridors that I really would like to see that we can work on. Many major corridors, if you will, but they are business corridors nonetheless. Pacific Avenue as one, as well as Santa Fe. In fact, I put a moratorium in West Long Beach regarding Santa Fe and Willow because there's not a whole lot of business development going on in those 2 areas. So I would like to see if we can identify some funding to go in there, at least funding to complete the studies to evaluate what we can do along those corridors. And I'm sure there's plenty of other corridors in the 9th as well as in the 6th as well, in terms of what we can do to activate those corridors and make them much better. There's other areas that we really need to emphasize on. So just throwing that out there as a put it on your radar, if you will, that areas that I would like to see us target as well for development and for support. But the bottom line for me is please participate. Join our virtual committee meetings. Come to the council meetings every week. We'll be having hearings from here on out. Various departments are going to be making their presentations, and it'll be an opportunity for you to give your input. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Zandejas.
Mayor, we're very, very excited for what this budget is showing for all of our districts. I think it's very.
Councilwoman, I think we lost your sound.
I'm so sorry.
There we go.
Thank you. I was talking away. Anyway, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to commend city staff for a really exciting budget. I think that, it's very important to note that this budget has been, the way I see it, has been, really developed with an equity lens intentionally, and I think it shows in this budget, and for that I want to thank you. I think that all of us here on council have certain projects that we're very passionate about, and it feels really good that everyone is getting a little bit of something in their district to be able to highlight and really push for this budget. One of the things that I'm most excited about, on top of having certain recommendations done for our parks, is our Latino Mercado, which is a big deal. And I want to thank not only city staff, but also my colleagues here on council for being so supportive of that. And seeing this on the budget is just phenomenal. So thank you very much. And I look forward to the hearings. And like Council Member Uranga said, I invite everyone to please come and be part of this budget discussion. And let's see how we can keep improving this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sarro.
Yes, I since we did have infrastructure presentation, I will do some shout out of some projects since I just want to have a moment, but I just wanted to share how excited I am that we're going to be making improvements to MacArthur Park, as well as starting on our MLK Junior Park vision planning and fixing and the critical repairs that's needed in the swimming pool, as well as making sure that we improve the streets for the Anaheim Street, as well as Pacific Avenue. And one of the, I think, outstanding project, I know we have some members of our community here tonight that will speak on it, and I'm just so excited to be able to complete it, which is the Killingfield Memorial Garden and the Cambodian Veteran Memorial Monument. Just so excited to get these process started or to have them finished soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mungo.
Thank you. Great presentation from the staff. I really appreciate your hard work on this. Lots of innovative things, a lot of things that came up in our community roundtables and council meetings, and I appreciate that. I look forward to diving deep into the details with the rest of my council colleagues in the weeks ahead. But like many of my colleagues, a lot of the exciting things have already been mentioned, and I look forward to working on those with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I see no other council comment. Is there any public comment, please?
If any members of the public would like to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature if dialing in Zoom, or line up at the podium. Our first speaker at the podium, you may begin.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Caballero, and I am the Senior Manager of Public Affairs and Communications for the Long Beach Public Library Foundation. I am speaking today on behalf of our board, staff, and our many supporters. We are a nonprofit organization that has raised more than $26 million in funding for library resources since 1996. We're very pleased to see some increases to the library's budget this year. The $400,000 in structural budget increase and the additional $400,000 in one-time funding for materials is the first increase the library's materials budget has seen in over a decade, and it will allow it to broaden and diversify its collection. We ask the City Council to make the $400,000 one-time funding a permanent part of the structural budget so that the library can continue to plan important updates to its collection. This is especially important as the library looks to increase its materials in Spanish, Khmer, Tagalog, and other languages spoken in Long Beach homes. We are also grateful for the proposal to eliminate the library's overdue fines without deducting the library's budget so that it does not have to penalize residents to secure funding. We ask the City Council to approve this change so that Long Beach may join LA Public Library and LA County Library systems in permanently removing this barrier to equity. While these changes will make a significant difference in what the library has to offer, the library's proposed budget still keeps these important educational resources behind closed doors most of the time. We ask the City Council to increase the library's structural budget so that the libraries may open more than 34 hours per week. Last year, the city auditor noted that Long Beach is significantly behind other library systems, which are typically open 48 to 60 hours per week. LBUSD released a report earlier this year which shows that more than 60% of elementary and middle school students read below grade level here in Long Beach. Now more than ever, Long Beach students need increased access to the crucial educational resources the library has to offer. Thank you.
Good evening. The Honorable Mayor and Council member. My name is Kalman Lee. I am the chairman of Cambodian Veteran Association, a non-profit organization. We've been settling in Long Beach since 1975, and one of our dreams is to build a monument to remind the next generation of the atrocity of the genocide that have inflicted upon all Cambodian people in Cambodia from 1975 to 1979. 2.5 million of our population is about 25% of the Cambodian population in Cambodia have been perished during the span of 3.5 years. Today, our dream is about to materialize because of the help and goodwill of the people of Long Beach, the mayor, the council member, and the administrator. We've been suffering for a long time, and this memorial will help heal all the trauma that have been inflicted upon all Cambodian people. Your generosity to help build the memorial park will have a big impact on the life of Cambodian Americans in Long Beach, also in the U.S. and around the world. It also help connect the younger generation to their ancestry and to their history. Thank you for thank you, Honorable Mayor Garcia, 6th District Councilwoman Dr. Suli Sarro, and all council members for your dedication to help build the Killing Field Memorial Park and Cambodian Monument. We will never forget it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sai Kinfei, 6th District resident. You know, always enjoy this. Is my favorite time of the year. You know, I've been doing this since we were across the street. And for new staff that came in during the COVID era, just FYI, you know, get you a contract with the local 7-Eleven or Walgreens and stock up on your Red Bull, because it will get a little testy. I don't eat pork, but this is the one time of the year that the pork projects come out, and I have a few of my own. I don't want to do, you know, I don't want to go to, you know, write the script for 20, 30 people to say the same thing over and over behind me thing. I know that rubs Mr. Supernal the wrong way. That's why we have these new rules. So, you know, just kind of keep it short with respect to the things impacting the community that I like. The Councilman Uranga already brought up one, which is the Pacific uplift of the Pacific Avenue. But one that I would love to see some attention put towards, because we have this visioning plan coming up, is that I appreciate the Office of Climate Action, the new department or office that's going to be. I think that just reality to where this country is going, we need one with respect to housing, specifically acquiring housing. I think for you know, the status quo in the city is that we are a Section 8 or housing voucher city. But if we're looking at cities across the nation that are our size, and HUD would probably begrudgingly agree, is that it's no longer a viable method of housing people. We have hundreds of people who are homeless right now with these Section 8 issuing vouchers, and landlords are no longer taking them. And I think that when you have radical reactions such as this, we have to get proactive. And to me, the best method is creating a new Office of Housing, specifically to buy already existing housing. There's cities like New York that started them a couple years ago, and they have a publicly bonded department that's money's being affordable housing is being bought every year rather than being developed. I think that that's something that I would love to see some reference to within the budget, but we'll see how these August 17th and such these virtual and in-person hearings go. Much excited to see what we can do with the city with this one-time funding from the feds, and moving forward, we're going to make sure that we maintain that shortfall so that our city manager can move into the new year with high spirits. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dave Shukla, 3rd District. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the presentation. I'd like to make some comments on the presentation slides 27, 28, as well as some related comments on slides 22 and 45. The Office of Climate Action in the City Manager's Office is something that's welcome. 4 whole new full-time employees may be enough of an inducement to get me to go back to graduate school. It would be helpful to know, though, in the job descriptions, hiring descriptions for these employees, as well as for some of the other climate-related hires, not only that they have some relevant training with climate change and climate adaptation, but also that these jobs themselves are tied to actual emissions reduction, actual pollution reduction, actual environmental performance, not just whether or not there's money in the budget for them. So it's a bit of a head scratcher which of the 16 proposed actions that are in the CAP these planning positions are going to be implementing. Also, with the adding of a combination building inspector to support the city's annual oil well inspection program, we should do well to remember that there is a lot of in-house, not only expertise, but also new equipment for monitoring methane. And that's something that you can't just have a building inspector, but you also need them to have equipment to inspect with, maybe a FLIR camera, maybe some other types of monitors. On slide 28, adding a business systems specialist for cybersecurity and an administrative analyst position for data privacy citywide. I have long been a proponent through the Smart Cities Initiative and other spaces for a citywide chief data privacy officer, or someone who has the relevant expertise, training, and empowerment through the job description and through the city manager's office to actually deal with the plethora of issues with data security and data privacy that ordinary individuals as well as people contracting with the city face. On slide 22, there's a lot of new hires, analyst positions, permit technicians, planners. It's important to recognize that all of these, even though they have to do with permitting, zoning, and construction, particularly with ADUs, these are all positions that could also be climate positions, specifically for the new green building codes. And then finally on slide 45, it's hard for me to tell how any of these so-called right-of-way water quality or CAP improvement projects have anything to do with climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello. My name is Katie Rotolo, speaking again. This time, I just want to address, as we keep talking about diving deeper into the budget moving forward, I noticed the mayor, you said the homeless response. So I can't help but think if we start to put in care systems and social prevention systems, that it won't be a response, that we'll have existing housing, like some other folks have mentioned, buying existing housing is something that we can do and create social housing like has been done in other cities. I don't believe that we can call police safety officers. I don't think adding the word safety seems like an oxymoron. We've seen time and time again how over-policing does not equal safety, especially because Black and brown communities are disproportionately affected by policing. I think if we want to continue to talk about climate change, that's a wonderful thing, but I also think that we need to look at how things are being spent. We talked before about equity and how things can be, divvied up. So I noticed we added a third restorative engagement person, to the REACH team, to two that are currently in place. So I'm just curious, what exactly is going into actually providing safety? I noticed we're writing off some tickets. I think that's great, but I'm just wondering what is actually being done to help people find permanent and stable housing, and what type of programs are we offering for them to find rehabilitation, to be recognized as citizens and just to be a part of our society and able to have the same opportunities as everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. I have my last two speakers here that are in line, and then we're closing the speakers list. Please.
Good evening. Respectful Mayor, City Council, and all the city staff. My name is Tipana Ted. I'm a long-time resident in Long Beach, California, over 40 years. I witnessed so many things happening in our town. Tonight I did not prepare any speech, but I'm just speaking out of my heart that I am grateful that you have considered Cambodian. That is a unfortunate Cambodian came to Long Beach City, Long Beach, 1975. That been atrocity by killing, shut down the country, killed 2.5 to 3 million people. All those people are educated, and I am one of them that came here to take refuge in California, Long Beach. So I'm grateful for all of you to thinking about Cambodian. We are a part of the mainstream media right now that you're thinking of. So I'm grateful that you're thinking about to help Cambodian to move forward, not to ignore Cambodian community. So now we are here. We're here to stay, we're here to live. Because of our country leader have turmoil, tilted toward communists. We are here against communists. We are here with American. We fight with American. We will die for American. So I am American, Cambodian American. I'm proud Cambodian American, and I'm proud of the city of Long Beach that I grow up my 3 children here for the last 40 years. So I thank you, and I want you to thinking about Anaheim Street need help. Right now it's just like a ghost town after the pandemic. So we need to look into it. Now it's the first step that you have thinking about Cambodian community. I appreciate it, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes public comment. Do we have any
we have 2
comment
speakers online.
Thank you.
Jessica Quintana, your time begins now.
Thank you. Hi, Jessica Quintana, Executive Director of Centro Child, longtime resident of the city of Long Beach for over 54 years. As you can imagine, I grew up here in the city and really advocated for Cesar Chavez Park. And so this is truly an exciting evening and a historical budget, I'd have to say. Never been so excited about a city budget in the past 20 years. So I just, from the bottom of our heart, just want to truly thank our mayor, our city council, Mr. Modica, city council members, our champion, council member Mary Zandejas and Roberto Oranga, on behalf of our 40-member Latino Advisory Committee and over 700 community groups, agencies, and residents who participated in our community engagement to put forward our Latino Cultural Center in Mercado. As you know, Latinos almost represent 40% of our community, but really hasn't had a place where we can celebrate culture, bring in our youth to be able to connect their roots, and also have an economic development space and a place for incubation of small business development. So this budget is truly a reflection of the city's racial and equity values and priorities that focus on culture and climate control, health, safety, and education. This is, I just can't really, say how excited I am for the city, because for the first time, the values really come through in the budget. And so, you know, people always say you put your money where you invest in. And so this is you know, truly happening. So I'm just so proud. It's a great day. We look forward to the budget engagement process and to the adoption of the 2023 budget. So thank you so much on behalf of the Latino community, and we look forward to working together.
Final speaker is Ismael Zavala.
Hi, can you hear me well? Is that good?
Yes, we can hear you.
I moved here to Long Beach about a year ago. I came to this meeting. I wasn't expecting to speak on this, but after hearing so much, I'm glad to hear. This is what I'm from Anaheim. I grew up in Anaheim, and this is what I always wanted to hear from them. And I hope all this is true. This is my first time ever at a city council meeting, but it does sound like you spread the money out and you're listening to people. And I hope that that's really the case. And so far, I have good impressions of Long Beach. We bought a house here. This is the first house we own, so I'm investing myself in the city. I'm here at a council to talk about something else, but I'm glad to hear everything I'm hearing. And yeah, and but I do want to. I was looking at the slides and I didn't see Tanaka Park, and that's kind of the reason I'm on here tonight. And because I'm not here to point fingers or anything, but just being a resident and living right by the park, that playground, it's a tiny little park, and that playground it's shameful. I mean, I see kids go slide down once, and the parents like, you know what, let's just go play on the grass. So I'm glad to hear. I think it's my district guys saying they're gonna have meetings with the city, so I'm glad to hear that, because I was kind of wondering, how do I say something about that? Because I didn't see it on the improvements list. I actually saw it as one of the parks listed, but when the improvements are listed, I don't see it any kind of improvement. It says you guys listed all the improvements, but Tanaka Park, it's tiny, so I don't understand what the changes are going to be. I see restrooms and gates, but Tanaka Park is not on the list, and I think it's one of those things that might be overlooked because it's a half decent park. We get a lot of elderly walking there, a lot of people walking their dogs there, but I think it's kind of like a good enough park. But if you look at it closely, it's pretty. The playground is pretty. It's not, you know, I wouldn't want my kids to play there. So I'm just wondering how I would bring that up so the next time this conversation is had, Tanaka can be on that list. And again, I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just, you know, but everything I'm hearing is great. So I'm glad to hear all that. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes comments. I have one last comment. I don't think there's any more questions from the council. So I just want to end by thanking the finance staff in particular for the budget work. And I wanted to just mention one last thing. I didn't get a chance to say it earlier today, but it is a bullet point in the budget that was pretty important to me. And I talked to Mr. Modica about it and had the staff support. And I just want to mention it because I'm really excited about it. Well, we haven't talked about it yet. I know we will at some point soon. Also in this budget is a line item that's about a $400,000 investment in the African American Cultural Center to begin a center for the study of hip hop and here in the city of Long Beach and the development of West Coast hip hop in Long Beach. And I'll mention this because as someone that's traveled and had a chance to talk to a lot of folks across the world, and I talk to people about Long Beach. There's two things they know about Long Beach. One is that the Queen Mary's here, and the other one is that they know about Long Beach hip hop. They know about Snoop. They know about the birthplace of West Coast hip hop. And as someone that grew up having my first album I ever bought, which was Doggy Style, with my own money. I've always felt that we haven't done enough to preserve the history of Long Beach's contribution, particularly the contributions of Black Americans, of our African American community in Long Beach to hip hop and to the broader movement of music. And so I've been working with the African American Cultural Center to create this. We provided seed money for them to create within the Cultural Center and Museum a center for the study of West Coast hip hop. Also, money will fully restore the VIP sign, which I know has had some issues in its restoration. And so we're paying for the full restoration at $250,000 for the full restoration of the sign that the city will do in partnership with VIP. They're aware of this allocation. and are very excited in bringing together VIP Records, the African American Cultural Center, this new institute, which we want to start and bring in an academic component to bring in a scholar, a hip hop scholar into the city, and to do a archival history of the development of hip hop by actually interviewing and talking to local folks that are still here and across the country, so that we don't lose any of the history, because there's so many folks that are still here that can trace the development and really how this all became a worldwide phenomenon. So I'm super excited about that. I just wanted to note that. It's one little line item, but it's personally very important to me, and I'm excited about talking about it in the weeks ahead. And so with that, there's a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and cast our votes to receive and file.
Councilwoman Zandejas.
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen.
Aye.
Councilwoman Price.
Aye.
Councilman Supernaw.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga.
Aye.
Councilman Austin.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
Motion is carried 9-0.
Thank you. Before we continue, we have a few more items. I am going to make a request, and I've talked to a couple of members. The presentation on the strategic vision is so important to everybody that everybody wants to actually be well rested to go over that. And so I'm going to move that to either the next or the following meeting. I'll work with you, Mr. Modica, to make sure that we schedule that. I know that it's an important topic, and we want to make sure we pay complete attention to it. It's very important. So I'm going to move on to item number 29.
Mayor Garcia, if we're laying over item 28, City Attorney, do we need to take a vote on the item to lay it over?
Yep. Let's do a motion to lay over. Yep. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any public comment to lay over? Seeing none, please cast your votes.
Councilwoman Zandejas.
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen.
Aye.
Councilwoman Price. Councilwoman Price. Councilman Supernaw.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga.
Aye.
Councilman Austin.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson.
Aye.
Motion is carried 8-0.
Thank you. Next item, please, which I think now is 29.
Item 29 is a report from Economic Development. Recommendation to adopt a resolution declaring city-owned property located at 6845 Atlantic Avenue as exempt surplus land and authorize city manager or designee to take any actions and execute any documents necessary to ensure compliance with the Surplus Land Act and state regulations relating thereto. District 9.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item?
Any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please line up at the podium, or if it's in Zoom, dial *9. Seeing none, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Richardson, do you have a comment?
Sure. Just to know, this is the site for the ABC. Is that correct, Ms. Tatum? Right. So this is important because when we acquired the site of the ABC, the Atlantic Bridge Community, the city's first citywide municipal shelter, we did so with a commitment to we acquired it so we could look at a broader, comprehensive vision to address homelessness. This begins that process by going through the surplus land process so that we can begin talking about a broader development for that site. And so this is significant in that way, and I look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Okay. Please cast your votes. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zandejas.
Comment?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen.
Aye.
Councilwoman Price. Councilman Supernaw.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga.
Aye.
Councilman Austin. Vice Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
And this is just for the next roll call. Councilwoman Price and Councilmember Austin have had to exit the meeting, so we can skip them during the roll call. Next up is item 30.
Report from Economic Development and Health and Human Services. Recommendation to execute a lease between Raquel M. De La Hoya and the City of Long Beach for office space for the Homeless Services Bureau Administrative Staff, District 1.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please line up at the podium, or if in the Zoom, dial *9. Seeing none, that concludes public comment.
Okay, I need to plug in the motion in the second on this. Thank you. Okay, please do the roll call vote.
Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilman Superna?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro? Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson?
Yes.
Motion is carried 7-0.
Thank you. Next is 31.
Report from Public Works, recommendation to increase appropriations in the Capital Projects Fund Group in the Public Works Department by $2,716,524, offset by Proposition C funds from the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, District 1.
Is there any public comment on this?
If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please line up at the podium, or if on Zoom, dial *9 now. Seeing none, that concludes public comment.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Do the roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilman Superna?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson?
Aye.
Motion is carried 7-0.
Thank you. Next up is item, I believe it's 33.
Report from City Attorney, recommendation to declare ordinance relating to the boundaries of the city's 9 council districts to maintain final adopted maps on the internet webpage for at least 10 years. Read the first time and laid over to the next regular meeting of the City Council for final reading, citywide.
Okay, can I get a motion in a second, please? Is there any public comment on this item?
If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please line up at the podium, or if in Zoom, dial *9 now. We have one speaker, Dave Shukla.
Good evening. Setting aside the political effects on incumbency, or some of the basic geographic discontinuities or strangeness of construction, some of the non-compact constructions. The fundamental problem with this redistricting map, and one that is going to have to be revisited in 5 years, is that this city is in a position today, as a result of the recent presentation on all the new construction starts that are happening, to be able to estimate that not only is the majority of population growth being concentrated in 3 districts, the new boundaries of districts 1, 6, and 7, but that by 2025, you will have population imbalances where some of these districts will be not only above 60,000 people each, but in terms of not only CVEP, but the effective CVEP, they will be more than 10% deviation with respect to every other district. There are already some constructions, just by memory here, that have marked population imbalances, and especially CVEP imbalances. There are 3 districts that have over 40,000 voters registered now by the 2020 census, and there's some that have only 30. There are a lot of things that went into the redistricting process that were good and that can be improved upon. There are a lot of things such as not including nonpartisan or no party preference voters that may or may not be able to be improved on. But the fundamental point of redistricting in American democracy is that the voters pick their representatives. The representatives don't pick their voters.
Or in 33.
Yeah. and that goes not just for our city council races and mayoral races, but also some of the other citywide races. I think it would really behoove this city to be very, very careful when it comes to new housing construction, especially affordable housing construction, of which all of the proposed or planned or newly finished construction, it's less than 10% affordable housing construction. I think it'd be really, really, really beneficial to look at the historic cores of areas in town, of historic cores of council districts, as places for housing growth. There is no housing growth, no new housing growth.
Mr. Shukla, your time has expired.
East of Clark.
Thank you so much. There's no other public comment, I believe, so we will go ahead. We have a motion and a second. Please, roll call vote.
Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilman Supernaw?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo? Councilwoman Sarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson?
Aye.
Aye.
Received. Thank you. Motion is carried 7-0.
Next up. Okay. Next up is item number, I believe we're on 34.
Report from City Attorney. Recommendation to declare ordinance amending the Long Beach Municipal Code relating to marine areas and Pacific Ocean areas read and adopted as read, citywide.
Okay, I need a second. Thank you. Any public comment?
To any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, please line up at the podium, or if in Zoom, dial *9 now. Seeing none, that concludes public comment.
Okay, if I can just please get a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Zandejas? Councilwoman Zandejas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen?
Aye.
Councilman Supernaw?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mungo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Uranga?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Richardson?
Aye.
Motion is carried 7-0.
Thank you. Believe that concludes the regular agenda. Is there any one that was here for second public comment period that missed the first one? Please come forward.
It's me again. I'm just giving general public comment, please. My name's Katie Rotolo again. Hello, Mayor. I just want to again mention the name of Mona Rodriguez, who was killed in Long Beach by a Long Beach police safety, air quotes, officer. And his bail was reduced. And I want to know why police are constantly treated with these kid gloves and why they are allowed to have this immunity, this qualified immunity, where they can disproportionately kill a young brown girl or a young black man and be let off. Why did his bail go from $2 million to $100,000 to now being out of prison? And then we have people who are disproportionately policed, like Tia Turner, a black woman who was running for her life in a protest, who might face life behind bars when she was merely being attacked and trying to flee in self-defense. So I'm just curious about how certain rules apply to certain people and certain citizens and how we can address that, not by adding more police officers or safety officers, as you call them, but by actually getting more involved with the community and giving more community care and actually lessening the school to prison pipeline. I think that this is just something we continue to see, is that more police and adding guns, especially to schools, does not save children. In fact, they just hide and children just scream in terror. I think we know that because they removed the screams of terror from the children in the schools in Uvalde because they didn't want us to hear those. So I'll just let you all maybe think about that for a moment, because I think a lot of you have children and care about children. And we must do something to remove school from police, or police from schools. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. We do have a couple announcements.
I'm sorry, Mayor, we do have one on Zoom.
Oh, okay, please.
Ishmael Zavala, your time begins now.
Hi, I spoke earlier on the budget, but this is why I really hopped on today. Like I said, I moved here last June, and I hate to bring up such a, I guess, minor topic compared to some of these heavy ones that people bring up, but I live off of Wardlow and Santa Fe. We bought our home here. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the area, but the this neighborhood, I guess you would call it, it runs from Wardlow all the way. You could take Delta all the way to Willow, which is I'm familiar with it as Catella because I come from Anaheim. But so it's a huge, huge neighborhood. But the part I'm in is next to Tanaka Park. It's like a chip off a giant block. There's power lines. They kind of cut the corner off, and then there's a nursery, and then Tanaka Park, and then maybe I'm not sure how many houses are in this neighborhood. It's like 20 houses, but the little angled alley that runs along um, it's the power lines, the nursery, and then the alley at an angle, chipping off the corner. Everyone uses it to cut, to not go to Santa Fe and Wardlow on the corner. And people fly. They fly so fast down they turn down Lincoln, and then Lincoln kind of bends and runs at an angle, like I said, with the power lines, and they fly down it. When I first moved here, I live in the middle of that somewhere, and our driveways are facing that alley, and it's a very narrow alley, and cars would park and block our alley all day, every day. They still do, and it's just really dangerous. Cars park there. We ask them to move. We can't pull out. Arguments start. Not just me, all my neighbors. The city, I called the city out here. They came. They said it's an alley, so there is no funding. They cannot paint the curb red. That because that's Tanaka Park on one side. The alley goes along Tanaka Park. There is no parking at the park. There is no parking in any alley in Long Beach. That's the law. But they don't ticket the cars because they say it looks like parking when you call the police. The city came when we asked them to paint it red. They don't. They said that it's an alley. They don't paint alley curbs red. We asked them to put a crosswalk because there is a street that goes in the middle and a gated entrance. They used to have a sign, but the sign fell and they never replaced it. But there is no crosswalk there because they don't. He told me there is no funding to paint crosswalks and alleys. I said, can you put a slow down sign? Anything? They said only alleys only get speed limits. The streets cars parked there for the street sweeper. The street sweeper does not give them tickets because there is no sign saying street sweeping in the alleys, so they cannot ticket alleys. So my hands are like super tight. I'm like, well, I call the police. They say it looks like parking. They won't street sweep it, which is another thing because a lot of people park there like a park and they leave their trash along the alley, and the street sweeper doesn't even get it. And so it's on all of us neighbors, always sweeping. We have to sweep after the sweeper every week. I don't know if we can. I don't know the answer, but if there's speed bumps, a crosswalk, a stop sign. But from what I'm being told, there is nothing. There is no budget to do that in alleys because alleys have laws in place that are just laws. But if you guys aren't enforcing the laws, if cars are flying through, cars are parking on both
Thank
sides
you,
of the
sir.
alley.
Your time is up. Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
Thank you. We'll have someone follow up. Councilmember Urenga, if you have an announcement or you want to comment.
Oh, no, what's your name, sir? I didn't catch it.
I think we have the.
My name's Ishmael Zavala.
Mr. Zavala, if you can please do us a favor. Call our district office for District 7. You live in District 7. It's a 562-570-7777. Please call our office, and we can talk with you about some of those issues that you raised this evening.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to announcements. I'm going to start with Councilmember Urenga.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I want to close this meeting in the memory of Mr. Terry Geiling, a Long Beach community leader, champion for military families, and former CEO of Gold Star Manor, which is in the 7th District in West Long Beach. He died this past Monday, August 1st. Terry was born August 5th, 1938, to Charles and Evelyn Geiling, who came from an agricultural family and background in Illinois. He gained an ROTC scholarship to attend the University of Illinois in Champaign, where he majored in agricultural science and graduated in 1960. He also joined the Navy after his college studies, and then became a submarine officer. Went to submarine officer school in Croton, Connecticut. He never talked about his Navy career. All he would say was his job was getting intelligence. While serving in the Navy, he met his wife, Nancy Brown, and married her in 1963. He has 2 children, Charles and Sarah. After his 8 years of active duty, he worked for IBM before starting his own business in IT support. Terry will be greatly missed by his family, friends, and colleagues. He will be remembered as a man who cared deeply about veterans and their families. His wife of 59 years, Nancy, described him as a wonderful cook and lover of country music, who was happiest when he was working in his garden or riding his bike around the Colorado Lagoon. Personally, I will personally miss Mr. Geiling. He was a gentleman, a scholar. He was the consummate person that you would want to meet. And all the work that he did with the Gold Star Manor, he had a vision for that facility, and it is being realized now with new facilities that are getting there now. So, Mr. Geiling, Mrs. Geiling, the Geiling family, my condolences to you on your loss. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I think, Councilmember, you said it very well. And, Terry was just such a well-respected member of the community and did so much for veterans, for Gold Star mothers, for young people. Also was a pillar in the Belmont Heights community, and just had a great aura and sense about him. And I know that our prayers and love are with the whole family and everyone that is going to miss him, and particularly folks within the Rotary Club and friends of his and all the numerous organizations that he was involved with. So I also want to send my best to Terry's family and friends. And I also want to add and close in the memory of one other real stellar person, and that was Bobby Smith. For those that didn't know, Bobby was the first African-American elected to the Long Beach Unified School Board, and was elected from 1988 until 2004, where she completed 4 terms as board president during an era of major reforms that earned national recognition, including the implementation of school uniforms and standards-based instruction. I had a chance to get to know Bobby and her work also through Long Beach City College, where she was a librarian and in leadership for more than 20 years at Long Beach City. She had decades of service across the community. She also, of course, as we know, was honored with the renaming of an elementary school to the Bobby Smith Elementary School here in Long Beach. And she is a longtime recipient of numerous awards and honors all across the community, both here locally as well as nationally. So we will always think about Bobby, and our love and prayers go out to her family as well. And then Councilmember Supernaw, I think you had also another closing?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to close tonight's council meeting in memory of 7-year-old Gabriel Garate. He was taken from us 1 week ago in a tragic traffic accident at Lakewood Boulevard and 23rd Street. So on behalf of the city of Long Beach, I'd like to express deepest condolences to Gabriel's family and the many 4th District, Artcraft Manor, Stearns Park area neighbors who are mourning his death. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Richardson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also want to acknowledge Bobby Smith and Terry, and I had an opportunity to know them both. And thank you, Mayor Garcia and Councilman Uranga, for those beautiful remarks acknowledging their passing. I want to acknowledge just a few things. Our Movies in the Park series continues on August 19th with a free screening of Disney's Soul at Ramona Park beginning at 7:30. Our last event in Houghton Park was a hit. It was Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings with a Long Beach Community Band concert. We had a great time. So we're excited for another great movie at another great park. So I hope you join us August 19th for Disney Soul. It's a pretty good one. We also want to invite you to the Uptown Jazz Festival on August 27th. It's always a great concert. It's going to be another one this year at Houghton Park. And then finally, the Star King Neighborhood Association will meet this week on Wednesday, August 3rd at 7 p.m. The meeting will be in hybrid format. In-person attendees will meet at 200 East 68th Street. For more information, feel free to contact my office at District 9 at longbeach.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sarro.
Thank you. I just have one event, which is a neighborhood cleanup by the Midtown Neighborhood Association, which is this Saturday at 8 a.m. to noon on 1744 Gaviota Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Without any other additional requests for comments, I got that one already. I'm just making sure I got everybody. Yep. That concludes our meeting. Thank you all very much, and we will adjourn till the next one.